I am Flor Delisa Borde. I am the Deputy Executive Director of PhilRice. Ang RCEP Seed Program ay bahagi ng Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund na naglalaan ng 10 bilyong pondo para sa ayuda sa ating mga magsasaka. 3 bilyon mula sa 10 bilyon na ito ay pupunta sa pagpamamahagi natin ng dekalidad na binhing palay. At kaya naman na pagdesisyonan ng ating mga policy makers na mag-focus din dito sa ating inbred seeds ay sapagkat batay sa pag-aaral, kaya nitong pataasin ang ani ng ating mga magsasaka ng 10% o higit pa. Ang specific objective nito, una, syempre kailangan nating mapadami yung mga magsasaka na gumagamit ng ganitong klaseng binhi. Pangalawa, kailangan nating mapataas yung supply natin ng mga certified inbred seed. At pangatlo, gusto rin natin na mapadami yung mga organisasyon ng mga magsasaka na nagpo-produce ng ganitong klaseng binhi at nagmamarket nito. So, ang pinakauna nating strategy ay yung pagpapamahagi mismo ng certified inbred seeds ng mga magaganda o matataas na kalidad na variety ng palay. Pagdating sa munisipyo, ang mga magsasaka na nandun sa mga nasasakupan o coverage ng ating programa, maaari silang maging beneficiary o mag-participate sa ating programa kung sila ay nakarehistro sa tinatawag nating Registry System for Basic Sectors in Agriculture o yung RSBSA na tinatawag nila. So kapag ang mga farmers natin ay nakapagpatala na, kailangan nilang dalhin yung kanilang tinatawag na RSBSA stub at ang kanilang valid ID doon sa araw mismo ng seed distribution natin, doon sa itinakda nating lugar. At ang bawat isa sa kanila ay maaaring makakuha isang bag ng 20 kg na binhi sa bawat kalahating ektarya. So, depende ang matatanggap nilang binhi sa sukat ng kanilang lupang sinasaka, pinakamataas na yung 6 na bags. So, halimbawa, ang isang farmer ay may 1 ektarya, eligible siyang makakuha ng 2 bags. Ngunit kung ang sukat ng kanyang lupa ay mahigit pa sa 2.5 na ektarya, hanggang 6 na bags lang ang kanyang maaaring makuha. Pag mataas ang kalidad ng binhi natin, kaunti lang yung kailangang ipunla dahil sigurado ang pagtubo o germination nito. Tapos, mas maayos din yung pag-absorb nito ng nutrients, kaya mas sulit yung mga inputs na ginagamit natin. At dahil mas puro yung dekalidad na binhi, sabay-sabay yung magiging paggulang nito, kaya makakatulong sa sabayang pag-ani. Nagsimula yung pagpapamahagi natin ng binhi noong nakaraang Oktubre 2019, At hanggang sa katapusan nitong Pebrero 2020, nakapagpamahagi na ang PhilRice ng mahigit 1.3 milyong bags ng ating certified inbred seeds. At yan ay naipamahagi natin sa mahigit kalahating milyong magsasaka. Tinataya natin na more than 650,000 hectares ang kayang taniman ng mga naipamahagi na natin na binhi. Para sa plano natin ngayong taon na to, ang ating target ay makapagpamahagi ng 2.5 million bags. At gusto natin madoble natin yung farmers o yung mga magsasaka na nabigyan natin ng benepisyo ng nakaraan. So sa ngayon, tinatarget natin mahigit 1 milyong magsasaka ay mabigyan natin ngayong tag-ulan na sakahan. So sana ay gusto talaga nating mapalawak yung reach nitong ating programa at dumami pa yung mga nakikinabang dito. Sa mga magsasaka natin na hindi pa nakaranas na makakuha ng benepisyo mula dito sa ating RCEP Seed Program, inaanyayahan ko po sila na makipagtulungan o makipag-ugnayan sa kanilang mga municipal or city agriculture office nang sa ganon ay makapagpatala sila dito sa ating registry system for basic sector in agriculture. At palagi po silang makibalita kung kailan po itong inaayos nating schedule at lugar ng ating mga seed distribution. Ito pong ating programa ay mas pinagbubuti natin at mas pinapalawak kung kaya talagang gusto natin na mas marami pa ang ating maserbisyuhan.
Ayan. Magandang umaga sa ating lahat. Ako po si Alma Reyes at kasama ko si Miss Brooklyn Flores. Kami ang mga moderator nyo sa ikalawang araw ng Yun PALAYun. Para sa araw na ito, tatalakayin naman natin ang mga agriculture and fisheries mechanization standards o ang mga pamantayan para sa mga makinarya sa kagamitan sa produksyon ng palay.
Tama ka, Miss Alma. Kung kahapon ay tinalakay natin ang mga pamantayan sa produksyon hanggang sa pag-iimbak ng palay at bigas, ngayong araw naman ay pag-uusapan natin ang mga Philippine National Standards patungkol sa brown rice stabilizer at Philippine National Standards sa rice mill. Bukod sa mga ito, may espesyal na paksa tayong inihanda patungkol sa Heirloom rice varieties dahil kamakailan lang ay pinagdiriwang natin ang Pambansang Araw ng mga Katutubong Pilipino noong ika-9 ng Agosto.
Tama ka dyan, Miss Brooke. Kaisa ang aming ahensya sa Department of Agriculture, Kabuhayan at Kaunlaran ng Kababayang Katutubo o DA4K para itaguyod ang mga produkto ng ating mga katutubo katulad ng heirloom rice varieties. Ayan, alam ko ay nasasabik na kayong matuto muli kung kaya't simulan na natin para sa unang paksa ng ating webinar sa araw na ito. Tatalakayin natin ang PNS Brown Rice Stabilizers, Specification and Method of Test. Ito ay nagpapatungkol sa brown rice stabilizer. Ano nga ba ito at ano dapat ang disenyo nito? So para mas higit pa natin na maunawaan ito, makakasama natin ngayong umaga ang isa sa ating mga speaker. So, ayan. Ayan. Makakasama po natin si Engineer Ray D. Alipio. Siya po ay graduate ng Bachelor of Science in Agricultural and Biosystem Engineering, major in Agricultural and Bioprocess Engineering sa University of the Philippines, Las Baños. Isa rin po siyang licensed professional agricultural engineer at certified test engineer. Siya po ay kasalukuyang junior engineering associate, test engineer ng Agriculture Machinery Testing and Evaluation Center ng University of the Philippines, Las Baños. So let us all welcome Engineer Ray D. Alipio. Good morning po, Engineer.
Good morning po, Ma'am Alma and Ma'am Brooklyn. Allow me po to share ang aking presentation.
Okay po.
Wait lang po.
Ayan.
Magandang umaga po sa lahat ng participants para sa BAFS webinar Yun PALAYun. Ngayong umaga ang Philippine National Standards for Brown Rice Stabilizer. This is PNS BAFS PABES 283 and 284, 2019. Sa discussion po na ito, i-cover ko both parts of the standards, yung specifications and methods of test, which specifies or discusses fabrication, performance requirement, methods of test, and inspection for brown rice stabilizer using superheated steam. So, yun po yung kino-cover nitong standards. So first part po, specifications. Few definition of terms or terms and definitions para sa standard po na ito. Of course, meron tayong brown rice. I think na-discuss naman na to the other day or nabanggit na po ito. It is the rice kernel from which only the hull has been removed and with the bran layer still intact. Of course, ang ating brown rice stabilizer, ano nga ba ito? Ito yung machine used for treating brown rice to extend shelf life by deactivating enzymes that cause hydrolytic or oxidative rancidity. So, dito po, binabantayan kasi, to extend the shelf life of brown rice, binabantayan natin yung formation ng FFA or free fatty acids, which can be slowed down by treating the brown rice. Of course, yung head rice, which is, the definition naman po is, ay katulad din dun sa mga rice standards natin like rice meal. It is a kernel or piece of kernel with its length equal to or greater than 3/4 of the average length of the whole kernel. The stabilized brown rice just refers to the treated brown rice. And then superheated steam, ito yung gagamitin natin to treat the brown rice. It is the steam that is heated to a temperature that is above the saturation temperature for its designed pressure. So when you boil water, you have saturated steam, and when you further heat that saturated steam, you produce superheated steam. Ito po yung superheated steam generator. Ito yung part ng machine where the superheated steam is produced. So two important components of this part is the boiler at saka yung steam superheater. So boiler is just used to produce steam by converting liquid water to vapor or by applying heat to water. And then to superheat this yung saturated steam, you have the steam superheater para makapag-produce ka ng superheated steam. And yung stabilizer capacity refers to input weight of the brown rice over the total time of operation. It is expressed in kilogram per hour. So, ano nga ba yung mga specifications or classifications ng ating machine na brown rice stabilizer? Unang-una, based sa system of operation or kung paano mag-operate yung machine, we have a batch type na machine. Ang batch type na brown rice stabilizer ay tinitreat niya yung machine in fixed quantity in the machine. So, makikita niyo sa screens niyo that the essential components of this type of brown rice stabilizer is, of course, yung boiler, one is yung boiler, and then 3 yung steam superheater, and then yung superheated steam treatment assembly, which include the feeding hopper, the treatment unit kung saan papasok yung brown rice for treatment, and then you have exhaust or chimney, and then to unload the output, you have the discharge chute. Second classification is the continuous type. So what is the difference? Sa batch type, we have a fixed quantity that is being treated. For a continuous type, you have a continuous stream of brown rice moving along the treatment assembly. So in this part, of course, yung superheated steam generator is just the same. Yung superheated steam treatment assembly yung medyo naiiba kasi meron kang nagmo-move na part to guarantee na continuous yung flow ng brown rice. Second classification, of course, yung fuel source of heating system, you only have two under the standard, conventional and non-conventional. Conventional are referring to source of energy, which includes yung mga diesel burners natin o yung mga oil burners natin, or using petroleum-based fuels. Kapag non-conventional, you're using biomass and solar energy. So, next part ng standard, we have fabrication requirements. Papasadahan ko lang din kasi medyo mahaba siya. So, yung general is, it should consist of, yung pinakita ko kanina, superheated SST assembly, SS generator, and control system. Of course, may requirement tayo na dapat yung parts na in contact with the brown rice, because it's food, it shall be made of food-grade material. And parts that are subjected to temperature shall be made of material resistant to corrosion and warping, or warping yung parang deformations due to heat. Yung mga, furthermore, under fabrication requirements, we have a requirement that the steamer's walls, enclosure, frame, and flooring shall be rigid to be able to support its maximum capacity. So, dapat kaya nung mga components na yon yung capacity nung machine. Of course, the treatment chamber, or kung saan nilalatag yung browner stabilizer, dapat hindi, kasi usually yun ay perforated screen as specified in 2.3. Dapat hindi mahulog dun sa perforated screen na yon yung mga brown rice or grains natin. 2.4, after treatment, there shall be cooling unit for the treated brown rice. Superheated steam generator, ito yung binanggit ko na kanina. We have a requirement stating na dapat yung steam lines and connectors and other parts subjected to high pressure and temperature shall be made of corrosion and warping resistant na material. Second one, yung boiler natin should have or shall have automatic pressure and temperature regulators. And of course, dapat yung boiler makapag-produce ng steam up to 300 kasi minsan bumababa yung temperature. Makikita nyo mamaya na ang requirement natin for superheated steam treatment is 120 degrees Celsius. So, up to that, dapat makapag-produce yung ating superheater. Ano yung mga requirements that will guarantee the quality of the machine? So, ito yung dapat pantayan to guarantee na maganda yung machine natin. Number one, the stabilizer capacity shall meet the manufacturer's specification. This is a very common requirement across all standards na yung in-specify ni manufacturer shall be met during testing. Parang ganon. Number two, ito yung sinasabi ko, the superheated steam treatment requirement or temperature requirement is 120 plus or minus 5 degrees Celsius. And dapat ma-attain and ma-maintain yon inside the treatment chamber. So, ito yung optimum requirement natin, condition inside the treatment chamber. Furthermore, we have other requirements or performance data. First one is change in percent head rise, maximum decrease. So, dapat 1 lang siya, maximum of 1. Kasi yung brown rice mo, it will move along or it will be handled mechanically. So, it will be subjected to damage or pwedeng mabasag siya. Ganyan. So, dapat yun yung malimit na or hindi dapat mangyari. That's why we have a performance data requiring na maximum of 1 lang dapat yung maximum decrease ng percent head rise. Change in percent MC or moisture content, according to the study of FNRI, medyo hindi significant yung increase ng temperature during the treatment using superheated steam. So, dapat kung mag-increase man siya, dapat maximum increase lang is very, very low, 0.3. Finally, the stabilized brown rice shall have no additional discoloration. no traces of unburned fuel or ashes on grain surface, and no fermented or musty smell kasi makaka-affect yon sa um, kapag kinain mo yung brown rice, sensory evaluation. Pag hindi maganda or may smell, so hindi siya masarap. Safety, workmanship, and finish. So what are the requirements under this part? One, the noise level should conform with the provisions given in Annex A. So si Annex A, ini-specify lang niya yung maximum permissible noise level or maximum noise level which is permissible for a definite duration of time. So for 4 hours na exposure sa noise, dapat ganito lang yung maximum na noise, parang ganon. Second one, kapag nag-exceed yung noise level ng machine natin ng 95 decibels, there shall be a provision of earmuffs or other protective device para sa safety ng operator. Next one, brown stabilizer shall be free from any manufacturing defects that may be detrimental to its operations. All metal surfaces shall be free from rust. Well, of course, it is a machine that is used for food, so dapat free from rust siya. Uniformity of parts and components for same brand and model shall be maintained. Ano pa yung mga nasa safety, workmanship, and finish? For the safety of the operator or the user, dapat yung lahat ng moving or rotating parts ay mabigyan ng cover, safety cover or guard. The operator of the brown stabilizer shall have adequate protection from all heated parts and other hot surfaces. So, pwedeng lagyan siya ng mga insulations para hindi mainit kapag accidentally na touch siya. Furthermore, there shall be no leaks in the tank, pipelines, and gas lines. So, that's under safety then. Electrical wiring throughout the machine shall meet local or other international safety code requirements. The external part of the machine shall be free from sharp edges and rough surfaces for the safety of the operator. And of course, meron tayong standards for technical means of ensuring safety, PAS 101-2000, wherein we're specifying yung nilalaman and itsura ng mga warning notices natin. So, dapat yung mga ipoprovide na warning notices for this machine shall conform to the said standard. Warranty for fabrication services, this standard is requiring na yung mga expendable and consumable or warrantable maintenance parts shall be provided warranty for at least 1 year. So, lahat ng standards binabanggit tong provision na to. Under maintenance and operation, the machine should be provided with standard tools, should be easy to operate, maintain and repair, and of course, an operator's manual should be provided. Yung content ng operator's manual should or shall conform to PAS 102-2000. Sampling, meron din tayong methods for sampling, PAS 103-2000. Ito yung medyo hindi namin nagagawa kasi usually a manufacturer or technology generator has only one machine na produce nila, so we cannot do sampling. Kung ano yung nandun, yun na yung tinatest namin sa Amtech. And testing, yung gagamitin yung complementing na standard of these specifications. So we have PNS BAFS PABES 284-2019. Anong dapat makita sa nameplate or marking and labeling ng machine? So ito yung mga yon. Dapat nandun ang registered trademark of the manufacturer, brand, model, year of manufacture, serial number, yung mga information about the MFAD or the manufacturer, importer, or distributor, country of manufacture, and of course, yung stabilizer capacity. Ayun yung first part nung standard, that's PNS 283. Now, we proceed to the second part of the said standard. Ito yung PNS 284 or the methods of test. So, under methods of test, well, sinabi ko na din kanina na in-specify dito yung mga methods of test, inspection, and means of verification na gagawin during the testing of the machine. So, number one, general conditions for the test. So, nabanggit na din kanina na it shall be sampled or selected based on PAS 103-2000 na medyo hindi siya nagagawa. Number two, role of the test applicant. The test applicant refers to the one applying for a test. So, he or she shall submit specifications and other relevant information about the machine. And of course, they shall abide with our terms and conditions. So, usually, sa mga test applicant natin, kanila what are these terms and conditions? Kanila yung, or always, kanila yung test material to be used, fuel, and other logistics for the testing of the machine. Number three, role of the representative of the test applicant. Kasi sila yung mag-ooperate ng machine. So, dapat skilled yung representative na nandun as they will operate, demonstrate, adjust, repair yung machine. Test site conditions, this is common requirement na dapat yung machine, of course, installed for normal operation during the testing. And dapat merong space na gagalawan during the testing kasi dapat merong place for handling, temporary storage, workspace, and it should allow normal working condition. Adequate ventilation and lighting shall also be provided in the area. So, suspension and termination of test. If during the test run, the machine stops due to breakdown or malfunction, we are suspending the test. If the machine will not able to continue, hindi na talaga niya kaya na mag-operate, the test shall be terminated. Another part under methods of test is test preparation. Dito, makikita kung ano-ano yung mga, number one, test instruments and other materials na gagamitin for the testing. So, as you can see in your screen, nakalist down sa standard yung mga gagamiting equipment and instruments. So, in this case, sa browner stabilizer, dapat meron kang thermometer, thermocouple, or logger to log the temperature data. Kung may PC or laptop for displaying or logging the data better. Tachometer to measure yung speed of components or yung RPM, revolutions per minute. Timers para i-measure yung mga pertinent or important times that will be used for the computation, like kung gaano katagal yung input time, gaano katagal yung output time, gaano katagal yung total operating time. Measuring tape, of course, gagamitin for measuring specs, length, width, and other dimensions. Sound level meter, ito yung gagamitin to measure noise level in decibels. Weighing scales, of course, susukatin natin yung ipapasok na brown rice. So, we need to have a weighing scale for the input weight and the output weight. Graduated cylinder for measuring fuel consumption. So, dito we're using refill method lang. That's why we will use graduated cylinder. Clamp on type power meter to measure your power, voltage, and current for your input power. Digital camera for documentation, of course, and portable moisture meter. So, very important to kasi gagamitin natin siya to look on yung mga test material conditions natin like moisture content. Grain probe or buriki for sampling ng grain scoop for, of course, handling ng grains, and cooling trays para sa mga treated na output. During laboratory test, we are using analytical balance or yung digital weighing scale, portable moisture meter for MC, indented tray para sa pag-measure ng or paghiwalay yung head rice mo at broken rice mo kasi meron tayong kanina na performance data for percent increase or percent decrease rather ng broken rice. Grain caliper to measure yung dimensions ng inyong brown rice. Air oven para sa pag-measure or for the air oven method ng determining ng moisture. And then grinder or centrifugal mill para sa pag-grind ng grain samples mo for moisture content. So, and other materials like sampling bags para gamitin during testing. Test preparation. Preparation of the machine for testing. The representative of the test applicant and testing agency shall check the machine so as to ensure the machine has been assembled and installed in accordance with the instruction of the manufacturer. So dapat during testing susundin natin yung instruction ng manuf or yung specifications ng test requesting party. Ito yung very important na part, test materials. So ano ba yung conditions or quality ng gagamitin na input test material for the testing? Of course, it's brown rice that is of single variety, commonly or locally grown rice of single variety. Dapat ang moisture content niya is 13% and dapat nadihal siya not more than 6 hours prior to the treatment or the testing. Dapat din na yung brown rice ay shall have a maximum of 20 pieces of unhulled grain or paddy per kilogram. I think this is a requirement under ng NFA for class, I think class A or B na brown rice or milled rice. Dapat 20 pieces of paddy lang yung makikita mo per kilogram. Of course, yung test material should be enough for the required test trials, running in, and lab tests. So, ano pa yung mga under this test preparation? Running in and preliminary adjustment. So, binibigyan namin ng time yung manufacturer or test requesting party to conduct running in para ma-run niya yung machine niya prior to the official test. So, during the running in, doon nag-adjust si manufacturer or si test requesting party. Pre-test observations. Number 1 is verification of specifications. Kanina we have measuring tape para i-measure yung mga dimensions and other specifications nitong machine. Usually, for brown rice stabilizer, tinitingnan or verify natin specs ng main structure, length, width, height, the superheated steam treatment assembly. So, kung ano yung mga specs ng dimensions, kung anong ginamit na material and all. Superheated steam generator, ganun din. Instruments and controls and safety features. So, we have a data sheet for this. given in Annex C of the methods of test. Number 2, test sample. So, magka-collect ng test samples kasi nabanggit ko kanina din na i-measure natin yung MC nung input, yung number of unhulled paddy. So, kailangan namin ng samples to measure or determine this data. Operation of the brown rice. So, ano ba yung ginagawa during operation? So, during testing operation, nire-run namin siya with and without load. Without load, meaning walang laman na test material. With load, may laman na brown rice. So, number 2, test trials. So, we have, usually we do 3 test trials for either type of the machine. So, for batch type, we do 3 trials or 3 trials, and per trial, meron tayong 3 batches of samples or test material. So, dapat sufficient yung test material mo for 12 full batches of brown rice. For continuous type, we also do 3 test trials that will run for 15 minutes per trial. Sampling, well, we have a sampling procedure na nandun sa annex din ng standard. Data collection, so nabanggit ko na kanina yung mga parameters na kukunin. So, dito sa part na to, nilalagay lang niya kung ano yung mga step-by-step procedures kung paano i-measure or i-determine yung mga data or parameters na yon. So, for the duration of test, the duration of each test trial shall start from the feeding of the brown rice or input brown rice into the machine and shall end after the last batch of SBR is unloaded or last drop ng treated brown rice. So, ano yung mga data? So, we have noise level. We measure this by using yung sound level meter at the position of the operators ng machine na tinututok namin 50 mm or 5 cm from the ear level of the operators. Second one, stabilizer capacity. We measure yung input weight na iti-treat, and then we time yung total operating time, which shall start when the brown rice is loaded into the machine and shall end after the last drop of the treated brown rice. Fuel or power consumption, kung ano yung mga konsumo na input power or fuel. So, kapag ginamit ay LPG-fired boiler and superheater, we measure the initial and final weight of the LPG tank. Kapag liquid fuel or powered boiler and superheater, we do the refill method. So, at the start, if a full tank namin yung tank, and then operate, and then after operation, i-refill namin ulit yung amount ng refill with yung consumed fuel ng machine. Kapag electric heated na boiler or superheater, we measure the power, voltage, and current using the clamp-on type power meter or multimeter. Kapag biomass fired, mini-measure namin yung amount of biomass. Kunwari kung rice hull siya, so wini-weigh namin yung pinapasok na rice hull dun sa burner. Data recording and observation, we have a data sheets na dinadala during testing. It is also included under Annex E. So aside doon sa mga binanggit ko kanina na mga performance data or parameters, we also do observations during testing for the machine for kung gaano ka or kung yung manner or process or kung gaano kadali yung pag-load doon sa machine, kung gaano kadali yung paglilinis ng machine, kung gaano kadali yung pag-adjust, at saka kung gaano kadali kunin yung output from the machine. Of course, we have mga safety features. Meron ba yung mga safety guards, safety covers, insulations, warning notices, mga ganong provisions. Labor requirements, we just note kung ilan yung number of operators during the operation. And we also note if merong failure or abnormalities during the testing and other important or significant happenings during the testing that is pertinent to the performance of the machine. Laboratory analysis. Of course, we do lab analysis. Pinakita ko kanina yung mga lab equipment or list of lab instruments that will be used for determining number of unhulled grain per kilogram, percent head rise, and moisture content. So yung number of unhulled grain per kilogram, we just do manual separation ng mga paddy per kilogram na sample or per 100 grams na sample, sorry. For percent head rise, we do the separation by using indented tray na sinabi ko kanina. So the percentage of the head rise per sample or for total sample, that's your percent head rise. Moisture content, we either determine this by using your portable moisture meters or by doing air oven method. So dito naka-state din under lab analysis procedures kung yung mga step-by-step procedures ng mga to. And of course, after all the testing, after all the procedures na ginagawa during testing, we shall draft or make the test report, which shall include this important information and data. So, dapat nandun ang name of testing agency, AMTEC, test report number. This is, test report number is unique per test report or per machine model tested. Dapat may title, summary of results, purpose and scope of test, methods of test, kung anong ginamit. We are specifying here na yung PAS 284 yung ginamit, parang ganyong mga statements. Conditions of the test, if it is a prototype or commercial testing, yung dates, yung address, so nandun siya under item 7. Description of the machine, we present this through pictures, photos, with arrows pointing to the different parts of the brown rice stabilizer. Results and discussions. Our results and discussions are all in tabular forms. And then on the last page, we have names and signature ng test engineer na gumawa or nag-test ng machine. Sorry. So, ipapakita ko lang din yung mga few procedures under annex nung MOT. First one is yung sampling for the brown rice input. Dapat merong 3 representative samples, each weighing 1 kilogram. Second one, sampling procedure for stabilized brown rice. So it shall be randomly sampled from the outlet of the machine, and the minimum amount shall be twice as much as what is needed for that particular analysis. Kunwari kung meron kang gagawin mga reference or second check-up or review, so dapat medyo damihan mo yung pagkuha ng samples. Handling of samples, especially those that will be used for determining an MC or moisture content, dapat nasa appropriate containers and tight containers siya para hindi mag-absorb ng moisture. Under MOT, we have an annex also to facilitate yung testing namin. We have data sheet for all the performance data na kukunin. So nabanggit ko na to kanina, but very important na ninonote namin for the brown rice input is yung source, kind or variety, date or type of dehaling kasi may requirement tayo na dapat hindi more than 6 hours yung brown rice mo after dehaling. Of course, MC and the number of unhulled grain per kilogram. And other performance parameters as discussed later kanina. So, a few computations. So, kinocompute namin yung mga fuel consumption rate. Dito, meron tayong data of the initial and final weight of the LPG tank. So, yun yung gagamitin plus the fuel time to compute the fuel consumption rate of the LPG. For liquid fuel, the amount of refill divided by the total operating or total fuel time. For biomass fuel, you have the weight of the biomass fuel consumed over the total fuel time. Stabilizer capacity is just the input weight or kung ano yung weight na pinasok mo sa brown rice divided by yung total operating time mo from the start of feeding until the last drop of output. So, yun siya. This is the last part nung standards, yung formulas. Unhulled grain per kilogram. So, sabi ko nga kanina, we manually separate the paddy or unhulled grain from the 100-gram sample. And this is the formula to determine the said parameter. Moisture content, wet basis tayo kasi brown rice or brown rice siya. So you have initial and final weights and then divided by the initial weight or the fresh weight. Percent head rice. So sabi ko kanina, we do separation of the head rice from broken rice using indented tray, and we get the ratio to determine yung percent head rice. So, yun yung specifications and methods of test natin for the brown rice stabilizer. So, again, I'm Ray and I'm from Amtech. Thank you so much.
So, ayan. Hello, group. Nakamute ka yata?
Ayan.
So, ayan. Thank you so much po, Engineer Ray, sa pagbabahagi sa amin ng kaalaman about po sa machineries related po sa rice. So, ngayon po, dadako po tayo sa Q&A. So, I hope nakapaghanda po ang ating mga viewers ng kanilang mga itatanong para sa ating speaker for today.
Habang wala pa po nagtatanong, engineer, pwede po magtanong, ano po bang kinaibahan nung sa batch type sa continuous type po ng isang brown rice stabilizer? Parang sa mas maganda po ba siyang gamitin for a small type po ba ng farming po or farmers po na gumagamit ng rice stabilizer or for a commercial one po ba?
Kasi during the testing namin, ang na-test lang namin ay batch type kasi yun lang yung may prototype na design. But for me, mas magandang gamitin yung batch type kasi fixed yung volume na nandun sa loob. So, mas maganda yung exposure ng grains dun sa superheated steam. Ang superheated steam treatment mo kesa kapag continuous type kasi medyo continuous yung flow nun eh. So, yung machine mo dapat very particular dun sa duration ng exposure under the treatment assembly. So, medyo minsan kung hindi maganda yung exposure niya, hindi maganda yung output mo, hindi matitreat ng mabuti. Kaya for me mas okay. For me as the test engineer, mas okay yung batch type na treatment. But I haven't seen a continuous type na brown rice stabilizer kasi
Dito po sa
hindi.
Philippines.
Yes, pero meron siyang prototype na ginawa under FNRI or MIRDC. I'm just not sure kung okay na yung design. But when we did the testing for brown rice, it was batch type po.
Okay po. Thank you po, Sir Ari. So may mga pumasok po tayong question po mula sa ating viewers. So ayan po, sir. Ano po ang difference ng machine nyo sa BR stabilizers ng MIRDC? Salamat.
Ay, yun. The brown rice stabilizer po, yung pag-formulate, yung na-formulate po yung standards natin, yung brown rice stabilizer, dahil po sa dinevelop po ng MIRDC and FNRI na brown rice stabilizer. So, siya po yung naging pinaka-reference namin during the drafting of the standard. So, parehas po siya, Ma'am Doc Marisa po, parehas po siya.
Meron pa po tayong isa. Ayan po.
Meron
From
po
Miss... Ayan, go bro.
Galing po kay Binibining Hubita, Kiblasan Canto. Sir, dumadaan ba ang mga imported machineries for your testing?
Yes po, dumadaan lahat ng machines locally manufactured or imported, dumadaan po siya sa AMTEC testing once na nandito na siya sa Philippines. Yes po, Ma'am Jovita. Kasi we need to test yung machine under Philippine conditions. So, very important na matest siya, yung mga imported. Yun po, thank you.
Ito po.
Go Ate Ann.
Okay, sorry po. Mula po kay Sir John Mark Persigas. Sir, yung brown rice stabilizers, pwede po ba yun for the natural rice?
Sir John, natural rice meaning milled rice po, no? Siguro yung tinatanong po ni Mr. John. Milled rice meaning natanggalan po siya ng bran, parang ganon. I'm not really sure po kung pwede siya sa natural rice or for treatment ng milled rice para i-extend yung shelf life niya. But yung standard po na ito is covering only brown rice stabilizer. So, brown rice lang po siya. And dun po sa study ng MIRDC and FNRI, I think brown rice lang po yung kinover nung study. Kasi yung brown rice po daw, as per the study, usually lasts for 2 to 4 months. Dahil, syempre meron po siyang bran. So, yun po kasi yung nagpapababa ng shelf life nung bigas po yung bran or drop. But when you treat the rice with the superheated steam, naglalast siya to 4 to 9 months. So that's an average of around 7 months siya naglalast when treated. I hope I answered po yung question ni Sir John.
And po, group?
Ito po sir, isa pong follow-up po doon sa tinanong ko po kanina. Yung batch type daw po ba ay para lamang daw po ba sa maliliit na farmers co-op at yung continuous po ba ay for the commercial manufacturers?
The standard does not recommend naman po or does not recommend which to use when you're a small farmer or when you're a big manufacturer or commercial manufacturer. So, ano na po siya, parang depende na po sa preference ng buyer ng machine kung alin po yung gusto niyang type ng machine. Yun po.
Okay po, thank you so much po, Sir Engineer Ray. So, pasensya na po sa mga hindi namin ma-entertain na question. Brooke?
Ayan. And puputulin lang po natin ang ating Q&A po ngayon para po tayo dumako po sa ating ikalawang paksa po patungkol naman po sa makinarya na gamit sa palay. So, ito po ay ang PNS rice mill. So, thank you po, Engineer Ray, sa
Thank you so much po, Ma'am Alma and Ma'am Brooke.
Sa pagsagot po ng Q&A.
Salamat po.
Thank you po.
Thank you po. So, ito po dadako tayo sa ating pangalawa. So, yung pamantayan po ukol sa rice mill. So, ang pamantayan po na ito ay patungkol po sa kinakailangang disenyo ng isang rice mill o gilingan ng palay para ito po ay maging bigas. Para naman po ito'y talakayin. Kasama po natin ngayon si Engineer Christine mula din po sa Amtech UPL. So, si Engineer Mary Christine M. Agoncillo po ay nagtapos ng Bachelor of Science in Agricultural and Biosystems Engineering, major in Agricultural and Bioprocess Engineering mula sa University of the Philippines, Los Baños. Siya po ay isang lisensyado o licensed professional agricultural engineer at certified test engineer. Siya po ay kasulukuyang junior engineering associate ng Agricultural Machinery Testing and Evaluation Center ng University of the Philippines, Los Baños. So, magandang umaga po, Engineer Mary Christine.
Good morning po. Hello po, Ma'am Alma at Ma'am Brooklyn.
Good morning po.
Hello po sa lahat ng participants ng yung PALAYun webinar ng BAFS. I-share ko lang po yung screen ko.
Okay po.
Ayan po. So, good morning po ulit sa lahat. I-discuss ko po ngayon yung Philippine National Standards for Rice Mill. So, ito po ay na-release last year, 2020, pero revision na po ito ng existing PAS 206-207.15. So, simulan po natin sa specifications. So, scope po niyan, this standard specifies the minimum requirements for rice mill. So, yung requirements niya sa performance, sa fabrication, and safety, and lahat po ng mga sakop po ng rice mill. So, i-discuss lang po muna natin yung yung commodity para nagagamit natin sa rice mill. So, palay, paddy or rough rice, yun po yung unhulled grain of rice sativa. So, bigas. Makikita po natin dito, yung anatomy ng palay natin. So, yung palay is na-coveran siya ng hull, which is yung ipa. Tapos meron tayong itong layer na to yung bran natin. So, yung ipa, outermost covering, rough covering siya. Tapos kapag natanggal na po yung rice hull, so brown rice siya, during rice milling, tinatanggal po natin yung bran na kapag natanggal, yun na po yung tinatawag natin darak para magkaroon po tayo ng milled rice. So, for purposes po ng PAS, ang definition po natin ng milled rice are yung grains obtained after the removal of hull, bran, and germ. So, natanggal na po yung ipa, tsaka yung darak. So, for rice milling, machine used to remove the hull and bran of the paddy to produce milled rice. So, meron tayong hulling part and whitening part. Ang huller or husker, pangtanggal po ng ipa from the grains, and yung whitener is para yung brown rice natin, magawa natin white rice. So, ito lang po ay schematic diagram, process flow for single flow na rice mill. So, meron tayong paddy na papasok sa huller. So, sa huller po, matatanggal natin yung ipa, rice hull, and yung brown rice papasok sa whitener, matatanggal yung rice bran para maging milled rice. So, dumadaan siya sa sifter para matanggal yung brewer's rice, binlid, mga broken, yung mga basag na palay, tsaka po yung impurities natin. So, may mga design na yung sifter ay may destoner din para matanggal yung mga naisamang maliliit na bato na hindi natanggal initially. So, ang final product po natin dito is milled rice. I-discuss ko later yung types ng huller, pero sa ngayon po muna, ito muna sa whitener. Meron tayong dalawang types ng whitener. So, meron tayong abrasive and friction. Yung abrasive whitener, meron siyang rotating component na nakakoveran ng abrasive material. Ayun po yung kumikiskis sa palay para matanggal natin yung bran. Yung friction whitener naman, yung rotating component ay hindi siya magaspang. So, natatanggal lang natin yung bran through friction nung mga butil ng bigas dun sa loob ng whitener. So, definition lang din po ng grains, terms natin ginagamit natin sa grains natin. Head rice, dinedefine po natin ng head rice or whole grains as yung grains na yung length niya is equal or greater than 75% of the average length of the whole grain. So, ito po yung mga buong bigas. So, brokens, yun naman yung mas maliit sa 75%. So, ayun. Kinukuha po kasi natin, kaya nini-define to kasi kailangan nating makuha yung percent head rice. So, dun sa na-mill na bigas, ilang percent nun yung buo at ilang percent nun yung basag. So, parameter po siya ng standard sa, may papakita siya mamaya sa performance requirement. Tapos, kinukuha rin natin yung percent head rice index. So, ito po ay comparison ng percent head rice ng machine na tinest at percent head rice sa laboratory analysis. Kinukuha rin po natin ang degree of milling. So, this is the extent to which the bran layers have been removed in hulled rice. Meron tayong 4 na classification. So, yung over-milled rice, natanggal lahat ng hull, germ, and bran. Well-milled rice, natanggal yung hull, germ, and outer bran, pero may natirang less than 20% of the sample grains. Meron din naman tayong regular milled rice. So, ang natira sa kanya na bran layer is 21 to 40%, and under-milled rice is, ang natira sa kanya is 40%. So, isa sa mga requirements din ng PAES kasi yung etong degree of milling. Kasi kung sobrang baba ng degree of milling niya, kung under-milled siya, possible na maka-apekto yung matitirang bran sa length of shelf life niya. And kung over-milled naman siya, possible na mababa yung percent head rice. Ayun. So, possible na maraming durog kung over-milled yung rice. So, other terms po for rice milling. So, kinukuha rin natin yung hulling efficiency. So, product siya ng coefficient of hulling and coefficient of wholeness. At tinitingnan lang po natin dito is yung huller, parang gano'n kaganda yung design ng huller sa pagtanggal ng ipa. So, yung coefficient of hulling natin is yung recovery ng brown rice dun sa ipinasok natin na palay. Tapos yung coefficient of wholeness, ilang percent nung brown rice yung buo. Yung hindi nadurog ng huller natin. So, kinukuha rin po natin ng input capacity, which is metric tons per hour, unit loading time nung nag-operate po tayo, and milling capacity, metric tons per hour ng bigas na nami-mill per unit time. Kinukuha rin natin ang milling recovery. So, ito naman po ay weight ng milled rice as compared to the total weight of paddy na ginamit natin, and using that, makukuha natin yung milling recovery index, which is comparison lang din po ulit ng results from actual testing sa results ng laboratory test. So, for purposes of rice mill PAES, yung indexes po natin is comparison lang ng performance ng actual machine sa performance sa laboratory. So, ginagamit po natin yung mga index para ma-eliminate yung possible na problems or yung initial conditions ng paddy natin bago natin siya gamitin sa rice mill. So, classification ng rice mill based sa mode of operation, meron tayong single pass rice mill. So, removes the husk and bran in one pass and produces white rice directly from the paddy. So, pagkalagay natin ng palay sa input hopper, diretso na siya sa, isang beses lang siya dadaan sa lahat ng components. Yung multi-stage rice mill naman, rice passes through a series of different processes and machines from paddy to desired output. So, possible na 2 beses siyang dumaan sa huller, 2 beses siyang dumaan sa whitener, So, basta merong isang stage na madaanan siya twice, at least twice, kinoconsider na po natin siyang multi-stage rice mill. So, possible na gamitin to kung hindi ganun kaganda yung quality ng bigas after ng first pass, so kailangan siyang ibalik. Meron din tayong classification based on type of huller. So, una yung rubber roll huller. So, ito po yung itsura niya. This is a type of huller made of rubber banded to an inner metal drum core. Ang rubber huller po, magkaiba yung, so umiikot ito, magkaiba yung speed niya ng pag-ikot. Tapos yung palay dumadaan dito sa clearance nila. So, yung pagkaipit ng palay dito sa dalawang roll, doon po tatanggal yung husk, yung ipa natin. Tapos meron tayong existing PAS for rubber roll, which is PAS 214-215, 2015. May na-develop din po na bagong design ng huller. So, ito yung impeller type huller. Type of huller with rotating blades and utilizes pressure such as Coriolis force, frictional force from blades, or impact force at collision with the blades and the peripheral surface. So, for impeller type naman po, yung bigas pumapasok dito sa side na to, tapos umiikot siya dito para siyang pump. Tapos, sinihigop siya ng blower dito para lumabas siya ng huller. So, yung impact force niya and friction sa ibang grain, dun po natatanggal yung hull. So, pinapakita ko lang po dito yung ilan sa mga most common parts ng rice mill. So, ito po yung isa sa mga example ng input hopper. So, pwede siyang hindi hopper. Sa mga malalaking rice mill, pwedeng dumping table or dumping pit para mas madali siyang malagyan ng operators natin ng palay. Tapos from the huller, from the input hopper, pupunta siya ng huller. So, ang nilagay ko pong huller dito is yung rubber roll natin. And from the huller, tatanggalin yung hull using the blower. And yung brown rice po natin is pupunta na siya sa whitener. After whitening and matatanggal na yung bran, dinadala na po yung bigas natin, which is after whitening ay white rice na siya, papunta sa oscillating screen. Dito sa oscillating screen, pinaghihiwalay natin ang head rice, brewers, tsaka yung brokens pala po. Tapos possible din na may destoner dito. So, dinidiscuss sa PAS yung iba-ibang requirements ng machine. So, for the fabrication requirements, steel bars, metal sheet, or plate, or any appropriate materials should be used for the manufacture of the different components. Pero dun sa indirect contact with the rice mill, dapat po non-corrosive yung materials para ma-ensure natin yung food safety. Dinidiscuss din niya na yung frame and stand shall be able to support the whole rice mill assembly during operation, and there should be means to minimize vibration. Rice mill that uses rubber rollers as its hulling unit shall also conform to the requirements of PNS PAS 214-2004. Tapos, para sa mga bolts and nuts, conform din po dapat siya sa requirements ng applicable PAS or other applicable international standards for engineering materials. Requirement din po na may provision for lubrication sa non-sealed type bearings. So yun po yung for the fabrication requirements. Ito naman po yung performance requirements for milled rice. So pinapakita po dito yung performance requirements ng machine and yung quality requirements for the milled rice. So for hulling efficiency, ito po yung requirements nila. And as nasabi ko po kanina, yung mga indexes natin is na-take into account niya na yung possible initial conditions ng paddy. So, with that in consideration, ito na po yung na-determine ng TWG po during the drafting of PNS na optimum requirements for these types of rice mill. So, in-specify din po ng PAS na dapat well-milled yung bigas natin, katulad na na-discuss ko kanina, yun na yung optimum for mas mahabang shelf life and yung sa quality ng bigas. Tapos, nire-require din po na sa per kilogram ng bigas at maximum na yung 15 na palay, no? Kita doon. Sa bagong PAS na rin po ito pala, isinama na rin yung requirements for brown rice milling. So for brown rice, since wala siyang wala siyang whitening component. So yung haling efficiency lang yung titingnan natin. So a requirement for all brown rice mills is 75% haling efficiency. Tapos yung number of paddy per kilogram is 20 pieces yung maximum. And other requirements, the specified capacities of the machine shall be attained. Ang nagde-declare po ng specified capacity is either yung manufacturer or yung requesting party. Kung sino yung nagpapatest. And again, since may existing paes ang rubber roll, dapat ma-satisfy niya yung requirement ng PNS PAES 214-2004. Covered din ng standard natin na specifications yung safety workmanship and finish. So, para po ito sa machine safety, product safety, and operator safety. So, may maximum allowable noise level tayo na 92 decibels. Ang 92 decibels, according sa sa existing OSHA, yung 92 decibels, yung safe siyang ma-expose for 6 hours ang operator nang walang nagagawang damage sa tenga. Pero kapag lumampas na po dyan, kailangan na ng ear protection kasi possible na magkaroon ng damage. So, kaya nandyan din po na there shall be provision for ear protection kasi sa actual operation, hindi naman natin madidikta kung gaano katagal siya gagamitin. Ayun po, moving on. Rice mill and other components shall be free from any manufacturing defects that may be detrimental to the operation. The construction of rice mill and other components shall be rigid and durable without noticeable cracks and leak joints, and the rotating components shall be statically and dynamically balanced. So, since may rotating components tayo, dapat hindi siya yung magalaw, as possible na magkaroon din siya ng effect sa product quality. Ayun po. Any uncoated metallic surfaces shall be free from rust, kasi food processing ito, so as much as possible yung food safety natin ma-ensure po. Tapos the external part of the rice mill and other components shall be free from sharp edges and rough surfaces that may injure the operator. So operator safety po ito. Dapat meron ding warning notices para sa lahat ng gagamit, and this shall be in accordance with PAES 101-2000. So aside from that, nire-require din po ng PAES na may mechanism for immediate disengagement of power transmission. So, if ang ginagamit is motor, sana may emergency stop, or kung engine naman po, yung pampaluwag ng belt para kung kailangan siya patayin, madali siyang mapapatay ng operator. So, titingnan din po natin kung may belt guard or cover siya for safety pa rin po ito ng operator. Safety sa feeding port and dust collection system. So, ayun, nabanggit din po kanina na lahat ng PAES may specify na warranty. So, ganun din po sa rice mill, at least 1 year upon acceptance, and general requirements shall conform with PNS BAF's PAES 192. So, for maintenance and operation po, nire-require ng PAES na yung each unit ng rice mill ay merong at least 3 pieces of dust masks, basic tools, operator's manual na nakabase sa PAES 102-2000. So, nasa PAES 102-2000 po yung mga required na laman ng operator's manual. Dapat nandun din yung maintenance schedule and list of warrantable parts. Tapos, isa pa sa mga requirement, the rice mill shall be easy to maintain and operate para po sa ating mga operators. So, yun, marking and labeling, kailangan, madaling makita ng operator. Tapos, nandun yung information na ito. So, registered trademark of the manufacturer, brand and model, and year of manufacture of the rice mill, serial number, tapos information po ng manufacturer, kung saan siya ginawa, capacities, power requirement, and yan, safety markings. So, sinasabi po dito na dapat both in English and Filipino para lahat po pwede siyang mabasa. And the marking shall be durably bonded and weather resistant para tumatagal po siya. Ayan. So, that's it for specifications po. Doon na po tayo ngayon sa methods of test. So, this is PNS BAF's PABES 304-2020. For the methods of test, ito po yung general conditions niya. So, So selection of rice mills should be in accordance with PAS 103 2000 and or any other suitable method of selection. Pero as stated po kanina ni Engineer Ray, so far hindi pa po kami nakakapag-stick sa selection process kasi ayun, madalas isa lang yung yung available na unit ng mga nagpapatest natin. Ayun po. Tapos role of the test applicant, sila yung nagsasabit ng mga specifications, manuals, and other relevant information about the machine. And dapat may terms and conditions po tayo during application na nag-agree po sila doon. Yan, sa application pa lang. Role of the official representative of the test applicant. They shall demonstrate, operate, adjust, and repair as the case may be and decide on matters related to the operation of the rice mill. So, kami po sa Amtech ay nag-test lang kami, data collection lang po. So, lahat ng matters sa operation, ang nag-decide po is yung nagpapatest. So, for the test site conditions, the rice mill shall be tested and installed in normal operation. It should be suitable for normal working conditions and have ample provisions for material handling, temporary storage, and workspace. So, ayun, dapat maluwag po siya and ayun, makakagalaw po ng ayos yung mga workers and yung test engineers and yung technicians. Adequate ventilation and lighting shall be provided. Lalo na po, may whitening component to, so magabok. So, mahalaga itong adequate ventilation. So, possible na during the test, masuspend siya or ma-terminate if magka-problema po ang operation. So, if the rice mill stops due to malfunction, possible siya masuspend. Tapos, bigyan natin sila ng time na i-try pa andarin ulit. Pero if hindi na talaga niya kaya mag-continue, and with the agreement po ng test engineer tsaka ng representative ng nagpapatest, i-terminate po natin yung test. Okay po, so test preparation, yung rice mill po for testing. So before the test, make sure muna po nung official representative and nung official testing agency, which is Amtech, na na-assemble na po yung rice mill and ready na siya for testing. Ayun po. So, check natin kung yung specifications na sinabi nila is yun yung actual na makikita natin sa field. So, ito yung instruments na ginagamit po natin during test. So, for field, we have the grain moisture meter para makuha natin yung initial moisture content niya. Tachometer for RPM, yung speed of components po kasi rotating siya. Rotating yung mga pulleys na ginagamit ng rice mill. We have the timer, measuring tape for dimensions, noise level meter for noise measurements, weighing scale, and grad seal if engine po yung ginagamit natin. Kung motor naman, power meter po yung instrument na dinadala. For laboratory naman, ito po, lahat ng ito ay para lang din sa pagkuha ng quality ng rice natin. So for the test materials, single variety paddy na may uniform moisture content of 14% plus minus 1 and minimum purity of 95%. Kaya mayroon tayong dinadala na moisture meter po sa field. So for single pass rice mill, ang available po sana is 1.5 amount for 1.5 hour na sufficient for a half hour of continuous milling operation and minimum of 3 trials po ito. For multi-stage rice mill naman, amount of test material shall be sufficient for the specified milling capacity at continuous milling operation with a minimum of 2 trials. So before the test, dapat na-break-in na siya para hindi na po nabibigla yung makina natin. Tapos, with and without load po yung measurements natin. And dapat before ma-test, nakapag-adjust na sila ng mga settings nila kasi hindi na po sila papayagan mag-adjust during the actual test na. Pre-test observations, specifications, sample lang po ito. So, dinidiscuss, kinukuha lang namin dito yung types ng mga components na binigay nila, na ginagamit sa machine, tapos yung measurements po nun. Test samples. So, kumukuha po tayo ng samples for analysis. So, this is for the input paddy. 3 representative samples, each weighing 1.5 kilograms. And kukunin siya sa top, middle, and bottom portions of the bulb para proper representation siya nung paddy na gagamitin natin. For the operation of the rice mill, so yun, test applicant's recommended setting of components yung gagamitin natin, and this shall be maintained during the test run. So ang AMTEC po ang magme-measure ng lahat ng measurements, magre-read ng lahat ng parameters na kukunin natin, tapos kukuha rin po ng samples. So the recommended feeding rate shall be maintained with a duration of at least 30 minutes and no other adjustments shall be permitted during the test. Ito po ulit yung kanina, for a single pass rice mill, minimum of 3 trials, at least 30 minutes per trial. Pero kung multi-stage rice mill po, at least 1 hour per trial. So, kino-communicate natin to sa mga nagpapatest na ganun kadami yung i-prepare na samples. So, for sampling during the test po ito, during each test trial, 3 sets shall be randomly collected from outlets of different components. So, kumuha tayo sa huller for the brown rice, paddy separator, destoner, and whitener. So, ito po ay yung milled rice na. The minimum amount of sample to be taken shall be twice as much what is needed para merong labis if ever need na mag-ulit ng laboratory analysis. So yung handling po dapat appropriate yung containers, may labels, and kept in dry and airtight containers para lalo kung for moisture content, hindi siya madadagdagan ng moisture. So noise level is measured sa pwesto po ng operator. So 50 millimeters away from the ear of the operators, and minimum ng 5 observations siya per reading. Pero before taking data, dapat stable na yung takbo ng rice mill. Ayan po. And the time of recording shall be properly spaced during the whole duration of the test trial. So for power requirement, for engine, katulad po na nabanggit din kanina sa brown rice stabilizer, fuel refill method po yung ginagamit natin. So initially sa start ng test, pinupuno natin yung engine, tapos i-refill natin siya at the end of the trial para makuha po natin yung volume ng fuel na na-consume ng engine. For motors naman as prime mover, kinukuha natin yung voltage, current, and total energy requirement. So ito po ay with load and without yung sa electric motors. Speed of components using the tachometer, kinukuha po natin yung speed ng rotating shafts. So dito sa picture, makita nyo yung pulley ng isang electric motor. So isa lang to sa mga components na kinukuhanan ng ng speed of components, which is measured in RPM, revolutions per minute. So again, before taking data, dapat stable na yung takbo ng machine natin, and properly spaced during the whole duration yung recording. Data recording and observations, ito po yung laman ng Annex D. So ito lang yung data sheet na kinukuha natin for each trial. Sa laboratory analysis naman po, so kinukuha natin yung grain moisture content, lalo at may requirement ang PAES na 14% moisture, wet basis. So purity, bulk density din, coefficient of hulling and wholeness, cracked grains, milling degree, head rice, brewer's rice, and broken rice. So, ito po, the quality of milled rice from the rice mill shall be compared to the quality of milled rice using laboratory huller and laboratory whitener. Kaya, kinukuha din po natin itong ibang parameters na ito para sa comparison ng tested machines sa laboratory results natin. So, ito yung flow chart ng laboratory analysis. So, yung palay natin is nililinis natin para makuha yung purity. Tapos, so, dito na yung clean paddy na hinahal. Sa brown rice po, kumukuha tayo ng damaged kernels, chalky and immature, other varieties, yellow and fermented, and red rice. Tapos, nire-record po natin ito. Kasama siya sa report. Tapos, from the brown rice, iwa-whitening natin siya. Tapos, yung milled rice natin, kinukuha natin doon yung percent head rice, percent broken rice, tsaka po yung brewer's rice. Kumukuha rin tayo ng whiteness number niya. May equipment po sa laboratory na pangkuha nun. So sa brown rice natin nakukuha yung hulling efficiency, tapos sa whitening po yung mga milling index. So ito ulit yung hulling efficiency, coefficient of hulling and coefficient of fullness. So comparison lang po ito ng huller ng machine sa huller ng laboratory. So again, yung coefficient of hulling is the ratio of the hulled grains to the total amount of grain input. Tapos yung wholeness naman is yung whole brown rice to the amount of yung total brown rice na nakuha natin from hulling. So ito naman grain parameters ng milled rice. The head milled rice recovery, total milling recovery, and percentage by weight basis of broken milled rice and brewer's rice ay kinukuha rin po natin. Aside from that, finally, kumukuha tayo ng milling degree using alcohol-alkali brand staining method. So itong alcohol-alkali brand staining method, may ginagamit na alcohol-alkali solution para mas lumabas yung matitirang brand, mas makukulayan siya. So sa presentation po ng results, napakita natin yung specs and result ng mismong test gamit yung format sa Annex PND na napakita ko kanina. And so nilalagay rin po yung schematic diagram ng power transmission and observations using photographs. Sa test report naman po, yung nilalabas na output ng Amtech, nakalagay yung buong details ng buong test. So title, summary of results, purpose and scope, so prototype pa siya or commercial, method of test which is PAS 304 2020, and ayun po, conditions, descriptions of the machine, results and discussion, tapos observations, and kung sino po yung nag-test. So, last part po is yung formulas. So, nandito lang yung mga formulas na ginagamit natin para sa ibang parameters ng PAS. So, andito yung input capacity, milling capacity, which is both na kilograms or tons per hour. Yung recovery natin na percent siya so kinukuha niya lang yung recovery na milled rice sa ginamit natin na paddy. Hulling efficiency, na-discuss ko na po earlier. Tapos, yan, percent head rice. So, recovery ng head rice, recovery ng broken rice, and ilang percent din yung brewers or binlid dun sa milled rice natin. Yung last parameter natin is yung milling recovery index. So, ayun po ulit, yung milling recovery ng actual test compared sa milling recovery ng laboratory test. Finally, meron pa pala tayong percent head rice index. So, ganun din po, comparison din siya ng percent head rice ng actual test as compared sa percent head rice ng laboratory test. Yun lang po at maraming salamat. So, yun po yung laman ng PNS BAFS PABES 303-304 2020.
Thank you po, Engineer Christy, po sa pag-discuss po ng ating PNS patungkol sa rice mill. So, dadako naman po tayo sa Q&A portion po ng ating webinar. So, marami-rami po tayong questions po makikita ngayon sa ating na-comments po ng ating viewers. So, mula po kay Mamarisa Romero, between rubber roll and impeller type huller, which one has a higher milled rice recovery and lower percentage of broken grains?
Wala pa kami comparison, pero dito po sa requirement po ng PAES, mas mababa po yung required hulling efficiency ng impeller type. So, di ba po yung hulling efficiency kasi natin is coefficient of wholeness times coefficient of hulling. So, dito po sa data ng PAES, I'm assuming na sa reference research po, mas mababa yung wholeness ng impeller type as compared po sa rubber roll. Ayun po. Pero ayun po, ulitin ko lang. Wala po kaming compiled data ng efficiencies ng comparison ng rubber roll tsaka impeller. Ayun po.
Ito po, mula naman po itong katanungan kay Mr. Mario Andrada. Can you explain further the importance or implications of percentage head rice index ratio in determining the rice milling recovery? Please give example, high lab mill versus low test mill or vice versa.
Okay po. So yung indexes po na nire-report natin sa Amtech, sa mga test reports po namin ay ano siya, 'di ba po, comparison siya ng actual test sa laboratory test. So sa index po kasi na-eliminate natin yung factors na ganito yung condition ng paddy bago pa siya i-milk. Kasi possible na ano po na mababa yung fullness coefficient niya kasi pangit yung bigas. So matatanggal po natin yung factor na yun sa indexes. Can you wait lang, basahin ko lang ulit yung question.
So,
Percent headrest. So yan po, kung wait lang. Let me check. Ayun po, kung maganda po yung, kung malaki yung index niya, ibig sabihin hindi ganun kalayo yung performance ng actual test sa performance sa laboratory. So, parang ano po, yung kung ganun yung makukuha po kasi natin sa laboratory is yung pinakamagandang quality na ng bigas. So, kung malapit sa 1 yung index po natin, ibig sabihin maganda yung design ng rice mill for that type of rice. Ayan po. So, parang lumapit yung recovery ng rice mill ng actual sa recovery natin ng laboratory. So, mababa yung losses natin sa actual machine. Ayun po. So, malapit siya sa ideal conditions, kumbaga. Ayun.
Okay po.
Nasagot
Thank you
po
po.
ba yung question?
Ayan po. Thank you po, Engineer. So, as much as we would like to entertain questions po, kasi ang dami nating questions na nakuha from our viewers. So, limit po muna namin hanggang 3. So, yung last question po na babanggitin natin is hanggang dun muna. And we would like to ask our speakers po na if possible po, na via chat box po siguro natin yung answer dun sa mga questions po ng ating mga viewers po.
Okay.
Thank you po. Tapos para po sa ating last question from Miss Tilin Rodriguez. Sorry po if mali yung pagkakabanggit ko nung name. Sa coefficient of wholeness, di po ba i-consider ang percentage head rice? Salamat po.
Bale, ang kino-consider po natin na percent head rice sa wholeness ay head rice na brown rice. Ang definition, ang gamit po kasi natin na term sa PAES, ang head rice is for milled rice. Pero ang coefficient of wholeness po natin is sa haling pa lang. So for brown rice pa lang siya. Pero yes po, sa wholeness, yung whole brown rice, so considered head rice siya ng brown rice, yun po yung ginagamit natin doon. Ayun po.
Ayan, maraming salamat po, Engineer, sa pagsagot sa mga questions ng ating netizens. So, ayan. Yung iba pong question ay entertain na lang po ni Engineer Mary po through our chat box po. So, ayan po. Maraming salamat po muli, Engineer. So, ngayon po ay magpo-proceed na tayo sa ating Menti quiz. So, ready na po ba ang ating mga viewers?
Ayan. Thank you po, Miss Al. So, magpo-proceed lang po tayo sa kaunting break po before po tayo tumako sa susunod na paksa. So, kindly open a tab po or browser and kindly proceed po sa www.menti.com and enter po ang code natin po sa quiz na ito patungkol po sa diniscuss nila Engineer Ray about the brown rice stabilizer and Engineer Christine about naman po sa PNS rice mill. So, ang code po natin ay 5540340. So, open lang po natin yung mga tab po natin to join po sa ating short Menti quiz break. Ayan. Marami na pong nakakapasok. So, ito pong Menti quiz break po natin ay meron po tayong 4 na katanungan mula po sa mga topics na diniscuss po ng ating mga speakers. So, ito po ang ating code, 5540340. Mangyari lamang po, magbukas po tayo ng another tab or browser sa ating mga devices upang makasali po sa ating Menti break. Ayan. So bago po tayo makasali, kindly edit po ang ating mga name to give po our emphasis or recognition po sa ating top scorer sa ating leaderboard with the following format po ng full name dash the organization or sector kung saan po tayo nabibilang. So ang example po niyan ay Juan Cruz dash Pax. So kung ready na po tayo po ay mag-aantay ng mga players po ngayon. So wag po natin kalimutan na ilagay po natin ang ating mga pangalan for proper recognition po. So we have 70 and counting po na sumali po ngayon sa ating Mentee Quiz Break. Ayan. So I'll start po sa ating unang katanungan. So kindly tune in lang po sa inyong mga devices. So what type of brown rice stabilizer where a fixed quantity of brown rice is treated with superheated steam for a definite duration? So anong klase po ng brown rice stabilizer ang gumagamit po kung saan may fixed quantity po ng brown rice ay tinitreat gamit ang superheated steam? So time's up po. Ayan, answers in. Ang tamang sagot po ay batch type brown rice stabilizer. So marami pong nakakuha. Ang continuous type naman po ay kung saan po ang brown rice po ay gumagalaw po sa treatment unit ng tuloy-tuloy at nagdi-discharge po ng without being circulated na po. So marami pong nakatama. So tayo po ay magpo-proceed sa ating leaderboard. So we have HDS ng PFI as our top scorer sa ating first question. So pwede pa po tayong humabol. So kindly tune in lang po sa inyong mga devices. Proceeding to our second question. So we have 20 seconds to answer po. True or false, under test materials topic, the maximum pieces of unhulled grain per kilogram of brown rice shall be 20. True or false? So, ito po diniscuss po ni Engineer Ray sa method of test ng brown rice stabilizer. 3, 2, 1. Time's up. So, answers in. Hati po tayo, pero marami po ang nakatama. So, true po na ang maximum pieces po ng unhulled grain per kilogram of brown rice ay 20. So, ang ano po ay shall become po from the brown rice shall come from commonly or locally grown rice of single variety with moisture content of at most 13% and should have been dehulled not more than 6 hours prior to the superheated treatment. So, ang maximum number of pieces po na unhulled grain per kilogram ay 20. So marami pong nakatama. We have 57 out of 70 na nakatama. So I think pwedeng mabago po ang ating leaderboard. We have still HDS of BFI as our leader na ating top scorer po. So proceeding po to our third question. So answer fast to get higher points. Ayan. Which of the following is a rice mill method of operation? Single pass, rice mill, complex pass, rice mill, multi-stage rice mill, or none of the above. Sa mga choices po, ano po ang nabibilang or isa sa classification ng rice mill method of operation? So, time's up po. Answers in. Ang tamang sagot po ay single pass rice mill o kaya at multi-stage rice mill po. Ito po ay dalawang klase po ng rice mill method, ay classification under po sa rice mills method of operation. So, mukhang marami naman po ang nakatama. We have 48 who got it correctly po sa single pass and 25 sa multi-stage rice meal. So, I think pwedeng mabago ang ating leaderboard. We have Mary Ann as our top scorer for this third question. So for our last question po, question 4 of 4. True or false, for a single pass rice meal, a minimum of 2 test trials with duration of at least 30 minutes per trials shall be adopted. So true or false po, under po ito na diniscuss ni Engineer Crispin sa methods of test ng isang rice meal po. So 3, 2, 1, time's up. So answers in, medyo hati po ang ating viewers. Ang tamang sagot po ay false. Ang minimum test trials po for a single pass rice with a duration of at least 30 minutes per trials ay 3 trials po. Minimum of 3 trials. So we have 41 who got it correctly. Medyo nalito po siguro ang ating viewers sa minimum. So I think mababago tong ating leaderboard. So for our last look for sa ating leaderboard, we have HDS of BFI as our top scorer po for this Menti quiz, garnering of 3799 points. Ayan. Congratulations po and thank you for joining this Menti quiz break.
Ayan, congrats po kay Miss or Mr. HDS ng BFI. Alright, gaya po ng nabanggit namin kanina, katuwang ang aming ahensya sa pagdiriwang ng Pambansang Araw ng mga katutubong Pilipino. Kung kaya naman ay naglaan kami ng espesyal na paksa patungkol sa Heirloom rice varieties na sinasaka ng ating mga kababayang katutubo sa Cordillera. Para talakayin ang iba't ibang aspeto ng heirloom rice varieties, sasamahan tayo ng mga eksperto mula sa International Rice Research Institute or IRI at Philippine Rice Research Institute or PhilRice.
Ayan. Ang una po nating speaker na tatalakay ng kultural na aspeto ng HRV or heirloom rice varieties ay mula sa IRI. Siya po ay si Dr. Casiana Vena Cruz or mas kilala po sa tawag na Doc Nolly.
Ang pangalawa naman nating speaker na tatalakay sa post-harvest interventions sa HRV ay mula rin sa IRI. Siya ay si Yan, ang tatalakay po ng ating second discussion ay si Engineer Joseph M. Sandro. Good morning po, Engineer Otep.
At ang panghuling speaker po na tatalakay sa nutritional na aspeto ay mula naman po sa PhilRice ay si Dr. Marisa Romero ng PhilRice. Ito po. Ayan. So muli po, ang una po nating topic na tatalakayin po sa heirloom rice varieties ay patungkol po sa kultural na aspeto na tatalakayin po ni Doc Nolly. Magandang umaga.
Magandang umaga sa inyong lahat. Brooks and Miss Alma, Miss Brooks and Miss Alma, and also to Sir Vince. Okay, so salamat at kami ay nakikiisa din sa DA sa pag-celebrate ng ating National Indigenous Peoples Day noong August 9, which is the second week, or part of the second week of August. And even our United Nations is also celebrating the International Day of the World's Indigenous People. At ang theme ngayon ay Leaving No One Behind, Indigenous Peoples and a Call for a New Social Contract. So at the same time, banggit ko na rin po na more importantly, ang BAFs, we are working with BAFs because they are currently developing the Philippine National Standard, or the PNS, on the Code of Practice for Organic Agriculture Production for Traditional Varieties. So let me start with my first slide. Mention na po kanina na tatlo kami magsasalita about heirloom rice varieties. Ang akin pong topic ay Capturing Value and Preserving Heritage. Si Engineer Sandro naman ay yung Post-Harvest Interventions for Quality Improvement. At si Dr. Marisa Romero naman ay yung Quality and Nutrition ng heirloom rice. So, next slide please po. Next slide please. Next slide? Yeah. So, dito po nakikita natin kung gaano ka-diverse ang ating rice crop. At the end, nakaka-characterize po ito, particularly yung mga nakatago sa ating gene bank, katulad po ng field rice at ng iri, kinaka-characterize po sila using this categories which is used to describe the characteristics of rice. At ito din po ang ginagamit natin sa pag-describe sa ating heirloom rice. Next slide, please. Ngayon, ang difference, ano ang difference na nakikita natin? Ang difference is that yung heirloom rice na nakatanim ngayon sa ating northern part ng country, sa Cordillera, ay actively used. Whereas yung mga nakikita natin na pinakita ko earlier na nasa gene bank, hindi sila actively used. Whereas our varieties or heirloom rice varieties na nakatanim sa ating Cordillera provinces ay actively being used by farmers and actually being used for many years and many centuries now. So makikita natin na mayroong production, ito ay yung last 10 years lang, na nagkameron ng about 142,369 metric tons of rice that's valued about 8 billion pesos, which is already being produced and even marketed in international market. Next slide, please. Ito po yung example ng mga varieties na meron ng market nung panahon na yon. Hanggang ngayon, at ito po yung ating mga varieties na pinag-iingatan para sa continuation at tuloy-tuloy na paggamit ng ating mga heirloom rice varieties na tinatanim natin sa Cordillera. Next slide, please. Dahil po dito, napag-isipan po na kung magdadagdag tayo ng mga technology or value chain analysis, pwede pa ba nating ma-enhance ang ating heirloom rice market para matulungan natin ang ating mga magsasaka na kumita ng mas mataas at ang consumers din to be more healthy. Bakit po? Ito po yung ating ipipresent in the next few slides. Nagkameron din po, next slide please, ng opportunities for market expansion nung mga panahon ng mga mid-2000, around 2013. At noon po, meron ding mga varieties na katulad ng tinatanim sa Mindanao na dinidevelop na nila for market, katulad din po ng nasa Arakan sa North Cotabato. Next slide, please. But, next slide, please. But this one is also produced in Cordillera, particularly this varieties Uminyo and Chorchoros, which are already very popular at that time. Dahil po dito, nagkameron din po ng partnership yung ating grupo na nagtatrabaho o nag-work sa Mindanao, at ito po ang sa Arakan Valley, na noon nagtatanim na po sila ng mga varieties like Dinorado, Azucena, mga varieties na pigmented, at nagmi-maintain din po talaga sila ng very good quality, kaya nagkameron din po sila ng kanilang mga sariling organizations for maintaining good quality rice. Next slide, please. So, yun po, in consultation with Cosleo at the time, we were asked to work in Cotabato, but at the same time, ang Cordillera already has been working under this one, this Charm 2, and with the same goal of improving the quality of life of rural highland IP communities in the Car region. So, next slide, please. Nagkameron po ng pagtutulungan ang IRI na nagtatrabaho na involved sa consortium, at ang IFAD, IPO na CPO at country program manager na noon po ay pinangungunahan ni Dr. Odsi, at ang regional director po noon ay si Dr. Marlene Santa Catalina, na magtulungan at mag-partner dito sa ating gagawing mga activities, at hopefully into a project. So noon po sinasabi nila na community seed bank, seed health management, and increasing rice production are some of the interests of the project that we can combine together to develop another partnership. Next slide, please. So, during that process, na-identify na merong mga gaps. So, katulad po ng sa pag-produce ng mga traditional rice grains and seeds na kailangang mag-improve ng purity, mag-improve ng labeling and packaging, understand the nutritional value, and have community ownership of the farming community, and promote the products. Next slide, please. And then also to build entrepreneurs or enterprises in the region. Okay, next slide, please. So this project, together with our partners from the Philippine Rice Research Institute and also the region, was supported by the Department of Agriculture, and during that time, it was facilitated by and organized by our USEC Edmund Sana, and we pray for his soul right now. And he was able to get this project into implementation together with 7 other projects with IRI and Phil Rice, and working with our, next slide please, with our partners from the Cordillera. We had this vision on enhancing the productivity and also improving livelihoods of our highland and upland farming communities in also at that time in the Mindanao area, and then with outputs of variety characterization for food security, increased yield and market demand, and also link them, the farmers, to value chain, and also next slide is to conserve the biodiversity of the rice varieties that are already grown in the area. Next slide, please. So, ito po yung mga component activities noong program or project na ginagawa ngayon up until now in the Cordillera. So this one, at that time when we started, we did varietal characterization. And then we also build local capacity and link the farmers to value chain. And then capture all these models for future programs. Next slide, please. Okay. We cannot do all of this work without the without working with our partners. And here I would mention that we have worked with they partnered also with the university researchers from Benguet State University, from Ifugao State University, from Kalinga Agricultural State College, Mountain Province State Polytechnic College, and work with them. Also with our implementation partners from the regional field offices of the different provinces. Also with the University of Southern Mindanao, and also with ATI, the regional center, also with our local government units in the province, municipality, and at the village level, at yung mga NGOs na nandoon sa ating dalawang areas, at ang ating mga target beneficiaries na tinawag nating members ng cooperative at that time, RTFC, and all the farmers that are members of the different groups, and also in Arakan with that group, and also other stakeholders at that time. And then we also worked with some private partners like restaurateurs, the chefs, and even our partners from Kellogg's and other stakeholders. Next slide, please. So ngayon, ano po ba talaga ang ating definition nitong mga heirloom rice varieties? So, next slide please. Ang heirloom rice varieties ay tinatawag nating traditional rice cultivars. Sila po, passed down through generations, actually many generations that we can think of. In fact, 2,000 years ago, but recent data says about 500 to 700 years, and they are normally grown in small family farms. They are normally in demand locally and also in the international market due to their cooking quality, flavor, aroma, texture, color, and also very importantly is their nutritional value. And they are also resilient because they have resistance to biotic stresses like diseases and other pests, and tolerance to abiotic stresses. Next slide, please. So, ito po yung mga activities na ginawa natin para mag-characterize, mag-identify noong mga products. At yung iba po ay babanggitin natin dito. Next slide, please. Yung ating pong sites ay focused in Kalinga, 4 na provinces, Kalinga, Mountain Province, Ifugao, and Benguet, where when we ask our stakeholders which varieties to prioritize, they help us categorize them into 3 classes, one with market potential, and those varieties that are near extinction, that are currently grown in the 4 provinces, around 7 municipalities, and 17 barangays in these 4 provinces. Next slide, please. So, as we agreed with our sample collection to study their diversity, we worked together with our regional field offices in Cordillera. So, they are with Dr. Maggie Wanawan, Dr. Virgie Tapat, and the rest of the team with our field rice, during that time, with Dr. Ruben, and also Dr. Marisa Romero, who is going to present later, our local government units, our state colleges and universities, and our farmer leaders who are partners at the identified sites where the selected heirloom rice varieties are grown. So collections took place in several months of the crop growth. And these are, what you see here are the varieties from the 4 provinces, originally starting with about 41 varieties, and then also in North Cotabato, in Alamada and Banisilan. And then, next slide, please. They continued because of the extension of collection. They continued until recently, but stopped because of the pandemic. They were doing the collections, continuing the collections with our regional offices and our team at PhilRice, and also some of our IRI colleagues, and also extended the collections. And this year, for 2 years, they collected around 81 of these new varieties from the extension areas, also for characterization, collection, and conservation and preservation. Next slide, please. So looking at some of these varieties, we noted that some of them ay hindi pa nakikita o hindi pa naididipos, hindi pa nakukolekta, hindi pa naitatago sa ating mga gene bank. Isa na dito itong mga set of varieties na ito na tinina namin wala sa IRI, and right now we are starting to save them and conserve them both at PhilRice and at IRI under this black box arrangement. Next slide, please. And then, pagdala nila ng mga samples, i-characterize sila in a very detailed manner. First, the panicles, and then they will be grouped into whether they are differences and were identified as variants. So next slide, please. Meron pong variation na katulad ng sinabi ko kanina, nakakakita sila ng mga differences doon sa characters, kaya tinawag silang variants. Ang isang example nito yung variety na minaangan. Nakakita sila ng mga 7 variants. And these are the different traits or characteristics and basis for grouping them. Next slide, please. Ito po yung example nung kanilang mga agronomic characters when grown in the field. And here you can even really see grown at the same time that there are some variations in some of these variants. Next slide, please. Even some of these varieties, however, are showing, like for example, this Chaikot Yonga, uniform morpho-agronomic characters among the variants. So you will see that they have, like in terms of the grain types and the grain characters, that some of them appear to be uniform even if they are variants. Next slide, please. And so, yung mga varieties na to, they were grown at the institute, so at a lower elevation, much different from where they came from in the highlands, several hundred or thousand meters or feet difference. And so, they were collected for DNA analysis, next using this 6,000 or later on, they were using about 7,000 rice snip chip bit. Next slide, please. And using this kind of analysis as basis, nakita natin na merong unique characteristics, a unique grouping ang mga varieties. So nakita natin na yung mga varieties ay mostly classified under the tropical japonica group, but still form different clusters from where they come from. And also, some are coming from all the provinces grouping together. But there are also called, in some areas, like for example, the Minaangan, from Ifugao, Ulican, from Kalinga, that they are actually belonging to a different group. They are upland indica, so they differ by the types of rice and also the many traits that differ in terms of grain quality and including pigmentation, as you see here. So the purple group are clustering in one group here. Next slide, please. Okay, so we also studied and compared them with varieties from the other region, which are grown in Mindanao. And indeed, as they were analyzed, these are the groups coming from these are from Cordillera, and they group as one big cluster here. These are the tropical Japonicas. Next slide, please. Oh, next slide. Next, and these are the purple. Those are the purple varieties that are also grown in the Cordilleras. Now, this group here that you see are the ones also forming a different cluster, and they are coming from Mindanao. So they form different clusters from those coming from Cordillera, which was also seen in the other analysis. Okay, next slide, please. So these are the groups that are also showing different grouping based on being upland indica. So they still group together when compared with all the rest of the varieties that were compared. Next slide, please. Okay, ito yung result ng bagong collection. So you will see here na they still form very different clusters, strong clusters here. So you will see here that this is Nippon Bar. Nippon Bar is our golden reference sa cultivar. This is also a Japonica variety, yet you will see that our tropical Japonicas are still grouping together, different from Nippon Bar. Nippon Bar has been sequenced, the genome has been, complete genome has been sequenced, and this is our gold standard. And yet you will see how different or how unique our varieties are from the Cordilleras. Next slide, please. Okay, so here what we did is to look at the level of resistance of these varieties against the different diseases, common diseases in the Philippines. Next slide, please. So we saw that some of these varieties we observed are showing some level of resistance against some strains of the pathogen. And you will see that some of them, like those from Benguet and also from Mountain Province, which are the purple varieties, are showing a level of resistance against this particular disease. Next slide, please. We also evaluated them against blast, another common disease that's very devastating from seedlings until maturity. And you will see how resistant some of these varieties are. Particularly, these are collected at the later from 2017 to 2019. These varieties were analyzed and found to be very resistant to blast, found in Kalinga and also in Mountain Province. Next slide, please. One pest that the farmers perceive to be having constraints in their production are the earthworms. So here, there are two types of earthworms that were reported by the farmers. One are the wireworms, and these are the thread-like earthworms, and the other one are the giant earthworms. The giant earthworms are the ones that are causing big holes in the terraces walls. So next slide, please. So based on the studies conducted, those wireworms are not considered as pests based on the studies that were done at the different sites in Mountain Province. And so they developed some of these field guides so that they could be used to see and look also at other sites in the Cordillera for this type of perceived pest. Next slide, please. So those are the characteristics of our germplasm, our heirloom rice varieties. And I'm just mentioning this here. In fact, Dr. Marisa is going to report this in detail, but the reason why they are mentioned here is that these characters are the ones used to characterize all this, next slide, all this heirloom rice varieties, because they were reported to have some nutrition and grain quality traits. Next slide, please. So where we identified also that some of these varieties are also showing high iron and high zinc, plus also high antioxidant properties that will be reported. But these are the traits that were included in the analysis, including the C3G, which are reported to have anti-cancer properties. Next slide, please. And looking at the comparison of the grain quality in terms of chalkiness, we found that there is a difference of the varieties when they are grown, the same variety at Cordilleras and at Iris. So high elevation and low elevation, there are some differences that are found in terms of chalkiness. Next slide, please. Dr. Rochi also did some sensory evaluation of these varieties. Next slide, please. With some of the consumers of these varieties. So what were tested here are like Chaikot, Uminyo, Ingutpor, the Inawi, and also Minaangan. And these were the traits or the characteristics that were identified for these varieties that were also used in the analysis. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And using this multiple factor analysis of heirloom rice varieties and using all the traits that were done and compared and characterized, there is a strong indication that there is uniqueness among the groupings of these varieties. The purple tropical japonica still grouped together, the tropical japonicas from the Cordillera Highlands still grouped together, and also the upland indica still formed a very strong cluster, but also the tropical japonicas from the lowlands or the uplands in Mindanao also grouped together. So these are actually based on many traits and many characters. So indeed, they show clear differences and characteristics that could be analyzed again based on other traits, like for example the nutritional traits and the grain quality. Next slide, please. So all these varieties, heirloom rice varieties, were published in a catalog. Now there are 3 catalogs of this. We have 3 volumes already that also indicates or signifies the community registration. Now, the varietal catalogs contain these morphogenomic characteristics of the selected heirloom rice varieties and including their variants. Next slide, please. So we could say here that, conclude here that there is indeed genetic wealth that connects culture and heritage to capture the value addition in the area of grain quality, nutrition, and also other characteristics, including their biotic stress resistance or tolerance. Next slide, please. Okay, now these are some of the activities that were done to enhance the capacity and also the enterprise entrepreneurship of the farming communities. Next slide, please. So there were actually participatory needs, opportunities, and assessments which were done by our partners from PhilRice. Okay, here this is an assessment of the socioeconomic and biophysical characteristics of each project site. This is also done by our partners, Dr. Digno Mastanilo, with the entire team. Next slide, please. And based on that assessment, the heirloom rice farmers identified also some of these gaps, which were, for example, lack of this irrigation water, abandonment of some of the rice fields, still there is some low yield and some zinc deficiency. Next slide, please. And also they have limited market outlet. So these are the farmers. Most of them are women, and they were identified. Next slide, please. To be actually 71% of our members of the farming communities and our self-help groups are women, 71% of them. Next slide, please. Okay, interventions were also provided by our partners, particularly from PhilRice, and this will be identified particularly relating to post-harvest management will be presented by engineer Otep Sandro. Next slide, please. So he will be discussing most of this. But there is also, in terms of rice production practices in the Cordilleras, some of these were also documented. Like, for example, the varietal selection, and also in the land preparation, where there are some of the practices and recommendations made by our partners at PhilRice to be able to improve the production practices in the Cordillera. Next slide, please. And then there are also many trainings, capacity enhancement done with our partners in the different provinces, 4 provinces. Next slide, please. And also the conduct of Farmers Field School done by our partners at PhilRice from the different topics that are actually part of the curriculum. Next slide, please. Some of the highlights of the Farmer Field School activities are based on the Palay Check Organic Heirloom Rice Production Technologies. So some of these are actually identified here based on the topics that they studied, like the seed selection, seedling management, up until water management and harvest management. And then on natural management of pests, they look into the different pests, rats, birds, and also even the diseases that we looked at, and also the development of the Palay Check for highland organic rice production. Okay, so where they studied the integrated pest management practices. So here they also trained on organizational development, and here you see different topics that includes even the leadership and facilitation skills development. Next slide, please. So after more than 1.5 years, about more than 200 of our trainees and part of this trainings where a Farmer Field School also graduated, and these were in December 2016. Next slide, please. So we also have wanted to link the farmers to market, and then also linking them to everyone who would like to be also helping our farmers from get their produce. Next slide, please. So these are some of the activities done for value addition and market linkages for the development of the different cooperatives. Next slide, please. We want them to be linked to the farmers to value chain, and these are the reasons for doing these linkages. We want them also to understand the production to processing to marketing, and also the constraints on opportunities faced by our heirloom-ized farmers to be able to provide the need-based interventions. Next slide, please. And these are some of the value additions that were done in the with our in collaboration with all partners and with our partners, where we identify their aspirations and also these different value additions to be able to improve the product of heirloom rice. Like, for example, here, the product improvement, productions, product processing, the product standardization, and also these consumer preferences. Next slide, please. So we also identified constraints and interventions along the value chain map, from inputs to trading and distribution. Here were identified the constraints and also the interventions that were also done by the different the different groups of our farmers. And here, because of that, they formed the provincial cooperatives for collective action, better market linkages, and also local capacity enhancement of enterprise building. Next slide, please. Also, awareness of heirloom rices and linking farmers to market were also done. So market information, market encounter, these are activities done with the different groups. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And also forming linkages in the markets and also the product awareness. Now, there are also market enhancement activities that were done. So the regional cooperatives were registered in the CDA. So these are the cooperatives that now there are 4 of them, including the Ifugao team. And then they also have a collective mark registered with IPOFIL. So these were also done to enhance the market and protect the market, their market. Next slide, please. Now, business plans were also developed for the different groups of cooperatives, and these were done also using, led by Mr. Robert Cayanos. Next slide, please. So business plan development were also done, and also improving the packaging, including the nutrition facts in the packaging materials. Next slide, please. So this geographic indication could also be done at a later stage, where recently we learned that some of the farmers are interested in applying for this geographic indication or register for geographic indication. This is actually giving the quality and reputation of the product that they produce. Next slide, please. And because of that, we also extended studying suitability map for the different varieties, particularly those that are going to have GI. So if there's a need for some of these varieties, they can be expanded with the same environment where they are grown, for example, in one of the provinces. And they can be extended, for example, in Benguet, Kalinga, and Ifugao. Next slide, please. We also documented some models and knowledge management, and also the M&E of the activities, the project activities. These are, next slide, please. The promotional materials that working also with some of the chefs, famous chefs in the country, like Chef Jesse Sinshoko, Robbie Goko, Chef Anthony Raymond, Chef Margarita Forres, Chef Chelly Gonzalez, and Chef Sharwin T to develop products of heirloom rice. Next slide, please. And also for improving the terraces. Next slide. Next, please. we have, please. The regional director has actually already agreed on working with the farmers in improving all these damaged terraces, and so that's part of the improvement and probably the increase in the areas where the heirloom rice are being produced. Okay, thank you very much. Next slide, please. And so, based on that, some of the heirloom rice farmers have actually intensified or diversified and integrated, did some rice-based farming systems. They purified and seed multiplied some of these prioritized heirloom rice varieties. They also pursued expansion of the most popular heirloom rice varieties to meet the domestic demand, linked heirloom rice organizations to more local markets, expanded the project gains through expansion in other municipalities, also provided more needed farm and post-harvest facilities, that will be actually mentioned later on by engineer Otep, and also rehabilitated, abandoned, and damaged terraces to increase the areas and volume of productions that was initiated in the 27 activities. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So, hoping that there will be a market demand and a niche for these heirloom rice varieties have been created, and that with increased productivity and promotion of farmers and consumers' health and nutrition, we also hope that there will be increased income leading to improved farmers' livelihood, and also contributing to collective action of preserving the rice terraces, the culture, and the heritage with inclusive economic growth. Next slide, please. So I think the take-home message here is that heirloom rices of the country is the treasured trove of biodiversity, known for ethnic knowledge with wide array of nutritional benefits, but still lacking data-driven evidence. So heirloom rice is a source of pride to our indigenous people living in these environments, and this offers a rich heritage as well as contributes to income and also livelihood. Our heirloom rice is grown through organic farming, hence this is an added value to consumers for the safety. And in terms of value addition, heirloom rice varieties have unique nutritional properties, their intense flavors and chewy texture, drawing chefs and consumers' attention locally in the Philippines and overseas. So a lot of these nutritional properties will be reported later on by Doc Maris in her talk. I think this is my last presentation. Thank you. But I would also like to thank very much our partners from the DA National Rice Program. Of course, our partners from Phil Rice, of course, starting from Dr. Ruben, and also from Dr. Marisa Romero, Dr. Glenn Ilar, Dr. Marlene Ferrer, and also our partners from like Jerry Bantayan, Norwell Sabigan, Raymond Credo, and also La Arne Mandia at the time that the project is being done up until now. And also especially our partners from the region, led by before Dr. Santa Catalina, and then Dr. Now Director Cameron Odsey, and our partners earlier, Dr. Maggie Wanawan and Dr. Virgie Tapat, and now led by Ms. Veron Fang-Asan and also Ruben Dulagan. And also our partners from USM, when we were doing the work there, Dr. Hondrades and also Dr. Dayun, and also our SUCs from Mountain Province State Polytechnic University, also from Kalinga Agricultural University, from Benguet State University, and also from Ifugao State University. So thank you all very much. And our colleagues from the Institute, from IRI. Thank you.
Thank you so much po. Ayan po. Thank you so much po, Ma'am Kashana Vera Cruz from IRI. Ayan po. Alam ko po maraming natutunan yung ating mga viewers. So, yung question and answer po is after na lang po ng ating mga speakers.
Yes.
Ayan po. Okay po. So, i-welcome na po natin ang ating susunod na speaker. Hello po, good afternoon po, Dr. Joseph Sandro. Bali siya po yung makakasama natin para i-discuss yung ating susunod na topic.
Mapagpalang araw po sa inyong lahat. I will share my screen. Okay na po ba? Nakikita niyo po?
Yes po, sir. Okay po.
Okay, so I will just subukan ko pong i-present ito ng mabilis. Ngayong umaga, kasunod ng presentation ni Dr. Noli, I will be presenting yung post-harvest intervention for quality improvement ng ating mga rice, heirloom rice na nagawa namin during the Heirloom Rice Project. So in this presentation, I will be just showing to you the traditional method on the post-harvest processing in the upland, or specifically in Cordillera, and what are the interventions done by our project. So for harvesting, makikita ninyo, ito yung kanilang manual method using this very important tool. Tawag nila dito is lackem. So panicle by panicle hina-harvest nila yung mga heirloom rice. Sa drying naman, ito yung kanilang practice. So they are practicing yung sun drying or yung field drying. So itong picture sa kanan, ito is specifically pinapractice nila sa Kalinga, yung ganyang, I just forgot the name nung method na yan. Pero mas ano pa rin talaga, o mas popular sa kanila yung sun drying. And milling and winnowing, ito yung paggamit ng mortar and pestle, and then syempre yung bilao nila for winnowing. Sa storage naman, ito yung makikita natin na very common din sa Cordillera, yung kanilang mga storage granary na ganyan. So sa baba, pwede rin sila mag-stock doon, and mostly pagka longer period of storage dun sa loob, sa taas ng kanilang mga granary na yan. So those are the cultural or traditional practices that they are doing. Now, ano yung mga post-harvest interventions that actually itong lack of machineries, post-harvest facilities were na-mention kanina, kung ma-observe nyo during doon sa presentation ni ma'am, na nabanggit ito ng mga farmers sa Pinowa na ginawa natin sa project. So umpisa natin sa drying. We piloted this technology, yung solar bubble dryers, sa lahat ng provinces na covered ng project, sa Kalinga, sa Mountain Province, sa Ifugao, and sa Benguet. For milling naman, we introduced or pilot tested din itong technology from Korea. This is a compact rice mill from Korea. I think this is very common in the lowland. Ang maganda kasi dito, kaya ito namin napili, may option ito for semi-polished and yung polished rice. So ang option ng farmers, kung makikita niyo dito sa right picture, This one is an uminyo variety. This is a black rice. Yung option ng semi-polish, ganyan yung lumalabas sa kanya. This specific company also produce a machine that pwede kayong mag-mill ng brown rice lang talaga. So, very compact din siya, kaya madali siyang i-move doon sa kanilang facility. So, this specific unit was donated ng project in partnership with Kellogg's doon sa ating model rice processing center for heirloom rice sa Bontoc Mountain Province. And then for winnowing and cleaning, the project also partnered with Dr. Lito Bautista of JHT to manufacture a winnowing machine. Tinawag namin to na air screen cleaner. Actually, this is the first, I think, na ang purpose nito is for cleaning the rice mill with the powder. So pagka-mill mo kasi sa rice, meron yung mga powdery. So kailangan mo siyang ma-winnow or ma-clean para paglabas doon sa pag-package mo na hindi magkakaroon ng mga parang powder doon sa packaging plastic or doon sa anumang packaging na gagamitin. So for sorting, malaki kasi ang demand ng market for brown rice, pero ang gusto ng market is whole grains lahat. Gusto nila makita is buo, walang durog. Kaya nag-introduce tayo kasi ito rin yung hinihingi ng mga farmers kasi dati mano-mano talaga nila pinipili yan. So nag-introduce tayo ng rice micro length grader. Actually, this one is designed for laboratory, pero tinry natin doon. And with the help of Engineer Dexter Ona of Axis, we designed a prototype na pwede nating i-fabricate locally. So ito yung design for that machine, yung micro length grader. And then we also introduced to them several hermetic storage options that are locally available. Of course, merong mabibili talaga niyan yung ating hermetic bag to a certain company. Pero ano ba yung mga locally available materials na pwede rin palang gamitin for much longer storage na hermetic? Pag sinabi mong hermetic, somehow controlled yung pasok ng oxygen and carbon dioxide sa loob ng storage bags or container. So ito yung mga locally available materials na sinubukan natin, and we've proven. Kung makikita nyo on the right picture, natatrap yung mga storage insect, specifically weevil, doon sa container. Hindi sila nakakapasok. So we also introduced to the farmers, especially to the co-ops, yung CO2 fumigation, small scale, with the use of a cocoon, hermetic cocoon. Ginamit natin ito to fumigate using CO2 kasi CO2 lang po ang accepted na fumigation procedure for organic, I think. So yun po. And then of course, very common naman ito yung mga vacuum packaging machine, pero ang unique dito sa vacuum packaging machine na to, it can vacuum pack in a cuboidal packaging. So yung para siyang box. So nakuha natin itong ganitong design or product sa Thailand. When we visited Thailand during my other project, nakita ko to. So naghanap talaga ako ng supplier, and then there's one supplier in Manila, and inintroduce natin sa taas. And they really like it because it can vacuum pack 12 kilos in just one run. So ganun siya kabilis compared to doon sa mga single natin na 1 kilo lang in one run. So the aim also of the project is to package these technologies in just one model pilot processing center. So napili natin yung model processing center ng Mountain Province kasi that time during the project, ito yung nauna or ito yung buo na. So nilagay natin doon yung mga equipment donated by Kellogg's ito na makakatulong sa kanila to really have a very good model processing center for heirloom rice. And then we also come up and one-pagers with the post-harvest. And this one is also being compiled into a monograph. So this monograph is now available online. You can download this. So those are the interventions. And yeah, if you want to know more in detail, what are those things that we pilot tested in the Cordillera. So you can download this monograph. Andun lahat yung kwento din ng mga equipment na yun na aming inintroduce sa Cordillera through Heirloom Rice Project. So yun lang po. Maraming salamat, and I will now turn over the presentation to Ma'am Maris.
Ayan po. Thank you so much po, Engineer Sandro from Erie. Ayan po, salamat po sa pagbabahagi sa amin ng kaalaman tungkol po dito sa topic na ito.
Ay, sabi mo kung nakikita na. Sorry.
Okay. Ngayon po ay dadako na po tayo sa ating huling speaker para i-discuss po yung nutritional na aspeto ng palay. Ipinapakilala ko po sa inyo si Doc Maris ng PhilRice. Good morning po, Doc Maris.
Okay, good morning po. Okay po ba ang aking audio?
Yes po, Doc.
Yes,
okay po.
At nakikita na rin po yung slides?
Yes po.
Okay, sige po. Magandang tanghalian na po sa ating lahat. Pero mamaya na po kayo mag-lunch. Saglit lang po ito. Bibilisan ko na lang po para hindi kayo masyadong magutom. So, nabanggit na po kanina ni Ma'am Nolly at saka ni Engineer Otep yung iba't ibang aspects sa heirloom rice. So, focus naman po tayo sa quality and nutrition. So basically, di-discuss ko lang po kung anong ibig sabihin ng quality at yung mga mineasure natin in terms nutrients and health promoting properties. So noong mga 2010, starting po niyan, merong demand ng mga high quality rice sa ibang bansa. Kaya yung DA, nag-initiate po sila na makapag-export tayo ng quality rice. Ngayon, ang tanong, ito po bang mga heirloom rice natin ay mataas ang kalidad o high quality, premium or fancy? Pwede po ba natin silang i-consider na gano'n? So para po masagot yung tanong na yon, kailangan po natin na tingnan yung mga samples na mga heirloom rice dito sa mga lugar na to. So ito po yung mga partners natin sa DA CAR na regions. Tapos ito po yung samples ng mga varieties na nakolekta natin for analysis. So ito makikita niyo po dito na napaka-comprehensive ng ating ginawang characterization. So yan po, grain quality, nutrition facts, health promoting properties. So tingnan po natin yan isa-isa para po lang magkaroon kayo ng idea na pag sinabi bang high quality, ano po ang ibig sabihin. So ito, nabanggit na po ito kanina sa mga presentation. Pag inalis lang natin yung hull, magkakaroon po tayo ng brown rice. At pag kiniskis naman natin yung dara, ayan na po yung ating white or milled rice or polished rice. So mini-measure po namin lahat ito, yung percent brown rice, percent total milled rice, at saka percent head rice. At ito po yung ating mga recommended values. Ito, isa-isa din po namin sinusukat yung rice grain. Pwede nating malaman kung ano ang kanilang grain length at saka grain shape. So ito po yung iba't ibang classification. Makikita naman po nyo ito pag natanggap nyo po yung presentation. At ito po ang pinaka-importante, yung physico-chemical properties, kasi ito po yung sinasabi natin na pwede nilang predict kung ano po yung cooking and eating qualities ng rice. Yung pong physico-chem, ang pinaka-importante po, ito tandaan po natin. Yung, di ba, kumakain tayo ng rice kasi meron siyang carbohydrates na galing sa starch. Ang starch, dalawa po ang components niyan, isang amylose at isang amylopectin. So, puro glucose units lang po yan. Kaya po dapat hinay-hinay din tayo sa pagkain ng kanin kasi sila po ay glucose na yun na dun sa starch. So, pag amylose ay linear at amylopectin ay branch. So ano po ba importansya niyang amylose na yan? Kasi yan po yung ginagamit natin para maklasify po yung iba't ibang klase ng rice. So makikita nyo dito, meron tayong waxy, very low, low, intermediate, at saka high. So kung mapapansin nyo, in general, mas mataas po yung amylose content mas tumitigas yung ating kanin. So tulad nitong waxy or glutinous, halos wala siyang amylose, kaya po siya ay super lambot. Ina-analyze din po natin ang protein ng rice. Meron po siyang konting protein, kaya yun na rin po yung pwede yung source ng protein. Ito naman pong gelatinization temperature, sabi sa inyo kung matagal ba o mabilis maluto yung rice. So tinitingnan din po namin yan using itong potassium hydroxide na method. So, meron po tayong mga classification, meron tayong low gelatinization, moderate, at saka high. Pag high gelatinization, ibig sabihin, yan po yung matagal maluto. Pag low gelatinization, ayan naman po yung mas mabilis maluto. Tapos sa approximate composition, kailangan po natin ito. So, ito po yung measure natin ng mga macronutrients. So, alam natin yung protein, mga ganon, fiber. Tapos measure din po natin yung health-promoting properties. Ito naman po, nalaman natin na yung mga may kulay na bigas or yung mga pigmented rice ay mataas po sa antioxidants. At ito po yung iba't ibang ina-analyze para malaman kung ano-ano yung mga antioxidants. So ito po samples ng mga varieties na ina-analyze namin. So makikita nyo dito pagdating po doon sa milling recovery na sa total milled rice at saka sa head rice, talagang marami po tayong heirloom varieties na premium po sila. So magaganda po yung milling recovery. At ito rin po yung sample ng mga varieties. Ito po yung top in terms of milling recovery. Sa physical naman po, kung mapapansin po natin, majority ng ating heirloom ay medium. At samantalang ang shape ay intermediate. Samantalang yung common po natin kinakain ay long at saka slender. So unique nga po talaga ang heirloom. So kahit sa length and shape ay medyo naiiba po siya. Physico-chem, so ito po yung amylose. So kita po natin represented naman ng iba't ibang classification. Pero karamihan ay intermediate at marami din po yung malagkit or waxy. Sa gelatinization, so ito po, low po yung gelatinization. So relatively, ibig sabihin, mabibilis naman po silang maluto. Tapos itong mga information na ito po, bali inilagay po natin sa mga catalog. So isa po ito sa mga catalogs na nabuo. At ito pa rin po yung mga ibang catalogs na makukuhanan natin itong mga information na ito. In terms of approximate naman po, makikita po natin dito na yung unpolished, ayan po yung bali brown rice niya, at ito yung polish. Makikita po natin na medyo ang kaibahan ay sa in terms of protein at saka yung ash, na ibig sabihin yun po yung mga minerals. Ganun din sa crude fat at saka dietary fiber kapag unpolished at polish. At tulad po nung nasabi kanina, tiningnan po natin, ginawa po natin itong mga nutrition facts based po dun sa iba't ibang analysis na pinakita ko kanina. So dito makikita nyo yung serving size, kung ano yung calories, meron pong total fat. Yung fat po ng rice ay good fat po siya. Hindi po siya yung nakakasama. At napaka-konti lang po yun. So wala po tayong cholesterol, wala tayong sodium, at meron pong dietary fiber. Usually po, doon po nagkakaiba yung unpolished at saka polished. So mas maganda po talaga ay unpolished. So ito pa po yung ibang samples ng nutrition facts, iba't ibang klase ng rice. So pagdating naman po sa health-promoting properties, so nabanggit ko na ito yung mga antioxidants. So makikita po natin, napakalaki ng range. Yung total, yung anthocyanin po, yung po yung nagbibigay ng kulay doon sa ating bigas, sa mga black at red rice. So as expected po, yung mga black rice, sila po yung mataas ang anthocyanin. Yung phenolics naman po, isang grupo din po ito ng mga antioxidants. At yung total antioxidants, yun po yung measure ng lahat ng klase ng antioxidants, whether yun ay anthocyanin, mga phenolics, at mga vitamin E, kasama na po dun sa total antioxidants. So makikita po natin na talagang may mga antioxidants po itong ating heirloom rice. So in terms of total anthocyanin, makikita po natin na yung top 5 dito sa unpolished at saka top 5 sa polished, yung balatinaw po, napakataas po ng kanyang total anthocyanin. So, makikita niyo rin po yung iba pang varieties na mataas sa anthocyanin. In terms naman po sa phenolics, so ito naman po yung iba rin yung mga varieties na mataas sa phenolics. So, kumbaga may kanya-kanya po silang strength in terms sa antioxidants. Pag total antioxidants, makikita po natin dito na yung alugit, siya yung pinakamataas. At At inyo din mapansin na kapag na-polish na, medyo bumababa din po talaga yung antioxidants. Kaya dapat po hindi na natin pinapolish yung unpolished form sana ng pigmented rice yung ating i-consume. Nakita na rin po natin ito, meron na po sila para ma-protect po yung mark nila na pa-register na po nila yan. At yung packaging po nag-evolve sa mga designs. And then meron din po silang mga cooking instruction at saka dyan po natin inilagay yung mga na-establish natin na nutrition facts. And then yung pong mga chefs na nakakolaborate po ng project, nag-prepare din po sila ng iba't ibang dishes para po dito sa heirloom rice. So kung napaka-creative po nila at kahit kayo rin po kung makaka-access kayo nitong ating mga heirloom rice ay pwede nyo rin pong mag-prepare ng kahit anong mga dishes. Yan. So ito na po yung aking take-home message na yung marami po sa heirloom rice ay high quality at kung ano po yung gusto ninyo, depende po sa inyong application, kung gusto niya lang siya na maging kanin o kung gusto niyo po siyang maging ingredient or raw material sa processing, marami po kayong pagpipilian sa ating heirloom rice. At yun na po yung ating black rice, red rice, kung meron po kayong makukuhanan, mas masustansya po talaga itong mga pigmented rice natin dahil napakarami po nilang antioxidants. At alam po naman natin pag antioxidants, sila po yung lumalaban sa mga free radicals na nagkukos po ng mga sakit na sa ating katawan at ganoon din po sa aging. Yung po kasing oxidation, yung po ang primary cause ng aging. Kaya kung marami kayong kinakain na fruits and vegetables at saka itong mga pigmented rice na mataas ang antioxidants ay makakatulong po para makaiwas po tayo sa mga sakit. And then, dahil nga po sila ay unique, sila ay high quality, they command high market value. So, pwede po natin silang ibenta dito pagkakitaan dahil mas mataas po yung presyo nila. At ganoon din po, talaga pong pwede po sa export kasi marami pong countries na very conscious sa health at gusto po nilang kinakain ay yung mga healthy. So, yung pigmented rice or yung ibang heirloom rice natin, pwede po natin i-export. So, yun lang po at ito po yung basic na quality and nutrition. Kung meron po kayong mga katanungan ay tanungin nyo lang po at sasagutin po namin. So, maraming salamat po sa inyong pakikinig.
Ayan po. Thank you so much po, Dr. Maris. Alam niyo po, sobrang ang dami kong natutunan dito po sa part na to. Kasi hindi naman po sa pagano, pero medyo bago po sa akin yung heirloom rice. Kaya sabi ko, okay po pala yung heirloom rice ng ating bansa kasi talagang marketable po at maganda po yung quality niya. So, thank you so much po, Dr. Maris. Ngayon po ay mag-entertain po tayo ng mga questions. So, medyo malilimit lang po ulit yung questions na mai-share namin due to time po. Pero we will make sure po na masasagutan po yung mga questions po as much as possible. Blue?
Ayan. So, for our first question po from Dr. Mario Andrada, for Dr. Marisa, anong physical attribute ang mahalaga sa traders kapag sila ay namimili ng heirloom or traditional varieties?
Opo. So yung mga traders at millers actually hindi lang naman po exclusive sa heirloom pero kahit anong klase po ng palay. Tinitingnan po nila ay yung dapat mataas yung milling recovery. At saka pag tiningnan po nila yung magsasample po sila dun sa grain length and shape, yung mas prefer po nila, yun po yung kanilang pinipili. So hindi na po nila malalaman kung yung variety na yun ay malambot or masarap kainin kasi nga physical lang po ang nakikita ng mga millers and traders. Pero kung may idea po sila sa variety, kung anong variety yon, ay meron na po silang at least idea kung ano yung amylose content. So pwede na rin po nilang ma-predict, kumbaga, kung ano yung magiging texture ng ating klase ng bigas na yon.
Ayun po at thank you po, Dr. Maris. By the way po, if nandito pa po yung iba nating speaker, we would like to invite them po dito sa ating platform kasi baka po may mga questions na ang ating viewers para sa kanila. Ayan po. For Dr. Sandro po. Ayan, Dr. Sandro, ano po yun? On-pack RM is similar to single pass meal method? Mula po kay Dr. Mario Andrade.
Thank you, Sir Dr. Mario. Hindi pa po ako doktor. Sa tanong ni Sir, compact rice mill, actually general term actually siya. Pwede mo nga tawagin na compact rice mill yung single pass. Pero dun sa specific na machine na pinakita ko kanina, it's actually it's a impeller type pero rubber. Ang common kasi sa Philippines is steel impeller. Pero this one from Korea is a rubber type impeller. And then two-stage siya actually. Meron siyang impeller at saka meron siyang parang ano bang tawag dito? Oscillating screen pag-separate ng brokens at saka whole grain. So wala siyang doon sa type ng polishing niya, meron din siyang friction polisher sa ano. Yun po, sir.
Ayun. Thank you po, Sir Engineer Ote po sa pagsagot po sa katanungan ni Dr. Andrada. Antayin ko na po kung meron pa pong another questions po for our speakers po. Kung wala na po tayong mga katanungan, ihihinto na, ito po, may isa pong nagtanong kay Binibining Risa Orpilia Aves Dinong. Ito po ang ating huling katanungan sa araw na ito. Heirloom rice varieties are for upland area only?
Sino pong sasagot?
Pwede po siguro
Ayan si Ma'am
Actually, ang mga heirloom rice varieties normally grown right now in Cordillera are din sila irrigated, under irrigated areas. You know yung mga rice terraces sa sa Cordillera, right? Yeah. But in other areas, like for example the one I'm talking to in Mindanao, or like for example in Arakan, in other places in Mindanao, they are grown in the uplands. Actually, unbanded uplands. So yung nandun sa yung nasa Cordillera ay irrigate because of the water availability. Although in some areas nagsasabi na sila nagkakameron ng medyo na-dry, especially at the end of the growing season. But at times of like transplanting and land preparation, they make sure they have some irrigation for land preparation and also until the right cropping stage.
Okay po, thank you po.
Ito po, may isa pa po tayong katanungan. Mula po para po kay Dr. Romero. Pwede po ba gawing toge ang brown rice? Ano pong benefit po nun?
Salamat po sa tanong. Parang kilala ko po yan, nagtanong na yan. Yung pong, clarify lang po natin, yung pamula po kahapon hanggang kanina, marami na po nabanggit na brown rice. So, alam po natin dapat na hindi specific variety yung brown rice. Yung brown rice lang, tinanggalan nyo po ng ipa, yung palay. So, kahit po anong variety, pwedeng brown rice. At kapag fresh po yung brown rice, ibig sabihin naroon pa po yung embryo, pwede po nyo siyang i-germinate o sprout. So, yung po yung tinatawag natin na rice toge. So, pero kung nawala na po yung embryo, hindi na po yung tutubo. So, dapat yung ating brown rice, kung meron tayong dehuller na magagamit o sigurado tayo na bagong tanggal pa lang yung ipa. So, yun po yung gagawin nating toge. Madali lang po yung pagpapatoge kung familiar po kayo sa ginagawa nating toge na munggo o kaya sa soybean. Ganun din lang po yung sa rice. So, ibababad lang po natin yung sa tubig, overnight, tapos ilalagay po natin tatakpan natin ng cheesecloth para ma-incubate. Meron na po tayong instant na rice toge. At ang maganda po sa rice toge or germinated brown rice ay ito po, aside from sa mga antioxidants at saka macro and micronutrients na nabanggit ko kanina, napakataas po noong GABA. Yung GABA, yung po ibig sabihin nun ay gamma amino butyric acid. So kung punta lang po kayo sa internet, mag-google lang kayo ng GABA or gamma amino butyric acid. Napakadami na po sa iba't ibang countries na talagang tinatake advantage itong GABA, nilalagay po nila sa iba't ibang pagkain kasi po ito ay maganda sa ating brain metabolism. Actually ay yung supplements po ginagamit na nilang pang tulong sa treatment ng Alzheimer's, may mga anti-cancer properties at saka antioxidants din po siya. So kung makakagawa po kayo ng rice toge, pwede nyo pong yun kainin ninyo as kanin or pwede rin stir fry, sama nyo sa ibang vegetables.
Pwede pala. So, 8 na po. Thank you po sa pagsagot, Dr. Robero. Antayin lang po natin. So, may mga katanungan pa po na dito. Miss Al.
Ayun po. Meron po tayong question mula kay Miss May de la Cruz. Yung heirloom rice, may requirements din po ba sa soil para maging maganda ang production niya?
Yes, may mga nutrients din silang kailangan pero hindi sila ginagamitan ng mga inorganic form of nutrients. Ang binibigay sa kanila ay normally yung mga organic type of sources ng nutrients to supply the nutrient needs of the heirloom rice varieties. Meron silang mga different sources of ginagamit na fertilizer para magamit during the cropping period.
Ayun po, thank you so much po. Ayan, meron po ulit tayong question. Mula kay Sir Nelson Alcolar. Ang question po niya ay, what are heirloom variety and special rice varieties similarities po?
Ano yon sa term? Heirloom rice varieties, usually mga traditional varieties yon. Kaya ang tawag natin, heirloom rice varieties, because they have been proven to be, like for example, grown for so many years with all those, like for example, our heirloom rice varieties, they've been grown for like 500, 700 years. In fact, millions nga yung unang report. So they were proven to be grown through generations and maintained and selected over time. Kaya kaya talagang they have retained good qualities na napipili during selection.
Pwede po
Mga special rice, yung special rice varieties, pwede din siyang mga improved varieties na merong special traits. That's the difference. Yung heirloom rice varieties, normally they are traditional varieties, but the special rice varieties could be improved varieties na merong special characteristics.
Dagdagan ko lang po.
Yes. Doc, Doc Maris. Please, thank you.
Yes. Parang may nag-e-echo. Ano po? Baka may mga naka-on na mic. Anyway, tama po yung sinabi ni Ma'am Nolly. Bali, ganito na lang po para mas simple. Yung pong rice natin, pwede po siyang modern o traditional. So, ganun po lang yung pagkakaiba. Pwedeng modern or traditional. Yung mga traditional po, ibig sabihin yan po yung indigenous sa ating bansa. Ngayon, ang special rice or specialty rice, ito naman po yung mga klase ng rice na hindi pangkanin O kaya ay may unique or special quality. Or pwedeng ibig ko sabihin sa hindi pangkanin, pwedeng pang-process siya, tulad ng malagkit, specialty rice po siya. Or may unique trait siya, halimbawa pigmented rice, yun din po ay special rice. Aromatic rice, yun din po ay special rice. So ibig sabihin, kapag merong unique na quality trait, yun po yung pwede natin consider na special rice. Ang heirloom, very, very special kasi traditional rice variety siya, maganda yung quality. Tapos, pwede pong i-claim ng isang lugar tulad sa sa Cordillera, pwede lang i-claim na galing po sa kanilang lugar yon. Pero ang heirloom rice po ay under sa traditional rice variety. Pero yun po, pwede nyong i-prove na sa inyo lang po galing yung traditional rice varieties na yan. Kaya siya naging heirloom to that area. Thank you po.
And po, thank you so much po. Sa ating mga guest speaker po, Sir Joseph Sandro, si Ma'am Marisa Romero, at si Ma'am Kashana Vera Cruz sa pagsama po sa amin ngayong tanghali. Ayan, tanghali na po pala. Maraming salamat po sa pagbibigay kaalaman at linaw sa ating mga viewers. Ngayon po, alam ko, yung mga nanonood sa atin ay yun pala yun dahil sa mga natutunan nila. Hanggang sa susunod po ulit na webinar, I hope po makasama po ulit namin kayo. So ngayon, mula sa day 1, i-wrap up lang natin, no? Mula kay Doc Roland, no? Ang dami nating natutunan hanggang sa last day ng ating webinar. And I hope na sa susunod na mga webinar, makasama pa rin natin sila. Bru?
Ayan. Tama po, Ate Ann. So, sa atin namang day 2 naman po sa ating webinar, ang sinalakay naman po natin nung umaga po hanggang ngayon ay ang PNS about sa brown rice stabilizer and PNS rice meal. Discuss po ng ating mga guest speakers from Amtech and Engineer Ray and Engineer Christy. And followed naman po nun sa pangalawang part ay ang pag-discuss naman po about the heirloom rice varieties na diniscuss po ng tatlo nating guest speakers na sila Dr. Kashana Vera Cruz or Dr. Ollie from Erie, discussing po kung ano po ang heirloom rice varieties, ang kanyang capturing value, and yung mga preservations po. Followed by Engineer Joseph Sandro or Engineer Otep, discussing naman po yung mga post-harvest interventions for quality improvements po na gawa ng heirloom rice project. And lastly po, followed by Dr. Marisa Romero from Philrice, na diniscuss naman po ang quality and nutritional value naman po ng heirloom rice. So nawa po ay marami po tayong natutunan sa ating 2-day part na webinar na yun pala yun.
Yes, totoo yan, bro.
So
by the way,
naman,
yes po. Go, bro.
Yes po, Ate. Go, Ate. Sorry.
Ayun. Okay, sige po. Reminder lang din po pala para sa mga winners natin from Quiz 1 kaninang umaga. Please message us para po maklaim nyo yung inyong premyo. At dito po nagtatapos. Tama ba? Ayan.
Reminder lang po tayo sa ating evaluation. Magpapaalala po kami na para po makakuha po ng kopya ng e-certificate at presentations ng ating mga guest speakers or topics discussed po for today, mangyari lamang pong sagutan ang ating feedback form na makikita po sa link na flash on screen at i-comment din po ng ating moderator. Ma-access po ito sa link sa flash. So, mangyari lang po na ibigay po natin ang ating mga honest feedback para po ma-improve po namin ang mga pagkukulang po, if ever, sa naganap na webinar. So, ito po ang ating...
Okay po. Okay po. At para formal po natapusin ang webinar, andito po ang aming Assistant Director na si Miss Grace Mandigma para sa isang pahuling mensahe.
Hello, Bulaga. Hindi ako si Assistant Director. Meron Grace Mandigma. So, magandang araw po sa ating lahat. Maraming salamat po. Maraming salamat, Alma at Brooke. Like ka nabubudol, Alma. Kasi kahapon, ako din yung nakita mo. But anyway, magandang umaga po. Maraming salamat po sa lahat ng tumutok at nakinig at nakibahagi sa programang ito. Maraming salamat po sa inyong mga katanungan dahil ginawa niyo pong mas interesado yung talakayan dahil po sa mga aktibo ninyong pagtatanong. Gusto din po namin magpasalamat sa ating mga eksperto, sa lahat po ng ating mga tagapagsalita kasi lahat po kayo pinuunlakan niyo po yung aming imbitasyon na magbahagi na inyong kaalaman at nakita naman po natin mukhang talagang rice eater ang mga Pilipino kasi kita po natin ang kanilang pagtutok simula kahapon hanggang ngayon at nakita din po natin kung gaano sila kainteresado dun sa ating paksa. Aasahan po namin ang inyong pagsuporta at pagsali at pakikiisa sa mga susunod na webinars na i-organisa ng aming ahensya. Kung papala rin, sana po yung mga susunod na po namin na webinar ay maging eligible na po for CPD points. So muli po namin kayong aasahan dun sa mga susunod na webinars. Muli from kaisa ng mga kasamahan ko sa Bureau of Agriculture and Fisheries Standards, kami po ay nagpapasalamat sa inyong pagtutok dito sa ating webinar. Official ko na pong sinasara ang webinar na ito. Magandang tanghali po sa ating lahat at kita-kits po tayo ulit sa mga susunod na webinar.
Ayan po. Thank you so much po, Dr. Alpha. Alright guys, maraming salamat po ulit sa
pagtutok na po nagtatapos.
Go, Brooke.
Ayan, maraming salamat po. Sorry po. At maraming salamat po sa pagtutok. At dito na po natatapos ang ating webinar. So muli po, maraming salamat sa ating mga speakers at sa ating mga live viewers manonood sa ating mga webinar. Magkita-kita ulit tayo sa mga susunod pa naming webinar. So, paalam po.
Bye po. Magiging
kwento ng bagong pananaw sa produksyon, malakas ang kooperasyon, katuwang ng mga magsasaka, pamahalaan at pribadong sektor. Dadagdagan ang kaalaman sa kabuhayan, sa negosyo pahuhusayin ang kakayahan. Ang at bagong teknolohiya, subsidyo, patubig at infrastruktura. Siguradong pagkain sa buong bansa, masaganang ani, mataas na kita, maulag na buhay ng mga magsasaka at mga mangingisda. Siguradong pagkain sa buong bansa, masaganang ani, mataas na kita, maulag na buhay ng mga magsasaka at mga